Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call our public consultation of City Council for Monday, June 26th, 2023 to order. That's the right one, right, Brenda?
Yes, it is.
I seen you look up. I was like, oh no, did I start with the wrong one? So I need a motion to open. No, okay. So to corporate officer to read aloud the notice of public consultation sessions. Over to you, Brenda.
Thank you. Good morning. This public consultation is being held to respond to comments received from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to the city's official community plan bylaw. OCP Amendment 2302, Bylaw 4563, proposes to redesignate lands in two different areas of the city. The first area is the lands that are included in the pending Nowakin Friendship Centre land exchange, which includes a portion of land required for the 102nd Avenue Bridge project in exchange for the closed road located within the parking lot. The land adjacent to the creek would be redesignated from mixed-use village centre to parks, natural areas, and trails. And the recently closed road would be redesignated from road to mixed-use village centre. The second area covered by this OCP amendment bylaw is the land that was not sold in the Chamberlain Park encroachment project. These lands would be redesignated from low-density residential to parks, natural areas, and trails. And there was no written responses received.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. 3, any correspondence or delegations? No. 4, so I'll call 3 times for comments. So I'll call first time for any comments. Second time for any comments. And the third time for any comments. All right, the next order of business to close the public consultation session. And sorry, I guess before I get to the next one, Councillor Parslow can you hear me, Councillor Parslow?
Yes.
Okay, if you need to speak, just let me know. And good morning. All right, next I will call our public hearing of City Council for Monday, June 26, 2023 to order. First order of business is 2, the corporate officer to read aloud the notice of public hearing. Over to you, Brenda.
Thank you again. This public hearing is being held to hear from anyone that may be affected by the proposed amendments to both the city's official community plan bylaw and the zoning bylaw, specifically OCP Amendment Bylaw 4563 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw 4564. With regards to the land at the Nowakin Friendship Centre, 102nd Avenue location, the recently closed road would be redesignated from road to mixed-use village centre and would be rezoned from road to C2 general commercial. The property at 10200 17th Street would be rezoned from C4 service commercial to C2 general commercial. The land adjacent to the creek on 102nd Avenue would be redesignated from mixed-use village centre to parks, natural areas, and trails, and would be rezoned from C2 general commercial to P1 parks and natural areas. The recently acquired property at 10401 16th Street would be rezoned from RM1, low-density multiple housing, to P1 parks and natural areas. And the land adjacent to the creek between 10401 16th Street to the unnamed park at 10430 17th Street would be rezoned from RM3, high-density multiple housing, to P1 parks and natural areas. The Chamberlain Park lands identified in these bylaws would be redesignated from low-density residential to parks, natural areas, and trails, and would be rezoned from RS1 single detached to P1 parks and natural areas. And finally, the recently acquired property located at 10425 17th Street would be rezoned from RS2 single detached and duplex to P1 parks and natural areas. And again, there was no written responses received.
Thank you, Brenda. All right, next 3, correspondence and delegations. None, okay. 4, I'll call 3 times for any comments on the hearing. Calling once, twice, and 3 times. Hearing nothing, I will close the public hearing. All right, next I will call to order our annual regular meeting of City Council with Committee of the Whole for Monday, June 26, 2023. First order of business is 2 delegations. 2.1, we have Joe Judge, Rotary Clubs of Dawson Creek in attendance regarding the proposal for the new Fall Fair Parade route. So I think Mike's here as well. So, morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Mayor, Councillor. Yes, my name's Joe Judge.
Hey, Joe, if you could just hit your button on the bottom of the mic, and then I'll turn it on.
Try
There
that
we go.
again.
Now the floor is all yours.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name's Joe Judge, and I have Mike Zegon here from the Afternoon Club as well. And we're here to talk about the annual Rotary Parade that's been taking place. As most of you would remember, we always gather and start at the co-op area there, and we cross 8th Street and then join up to 102nd and go down towards Mile Zero Post and around and down 10th Street, etc. We've had some difficulties over the last couple of years and from highways crossing 8th Street. And their concern was the closure of 8th Street and the bypass and all the other things that needed to be done in order to facilitate that closure, which is becoming more and more onerous as traffic increases and truck traffic want to go through Dawson, etc. The other area that has come to our attention was people's access to life labs was greatly prohibited from us gathering there. So we do want to be involved with that part as well. So our 2 clubs, the Afternoon Club and the Morning Club, have worked together, and Mike has, I hope you all have this map in your package there. Mike has drawn up a map of the new route that we're proposing to use. And really, it's just the initial start that's changing. Once we get to 102nd and over to the Mile Zero Post, it's following the traditional route. It's just where we're starting. So I don't know if you want to describe what we're doing there, Mike?
Yeah, sure. So as Joe mentioned, the key issue was the highways and not having to cross them in the future. So we decided that the most likely alternate start spot would be down McKellar Avenue and behind you here on 13th Street. And we've talked to the school board to be able to use their property as well to stage out. Obviously, there'll be some traffic disruptions, and Joe will do some asks on barriers and that kind of thing. We've mapped it out, and we have sufficient room there, or at least equivalent room to what we had at the co-op. The primary change, of course, will be a slightly extension of the route. The route's going to go by City Hall property now and the provincial building, and it will go the reverse direction it used to go down 102nd Ave before it turns and goes down 10th Street. We hope what that does is allow normal traffic flow through town, visitors, guests, and that, to be able to use 8th and Alaska. Our volunteers were taking quite a bit of abuse on a lot of the road blockades and that kind of stuff by people who couldn't be bothered to wait that hour while the parade finished and moved out. And we hope that this alleviates it. We've also undertaken a program where a number of our Rotarians will be visiting all the properties along the staging area and our parking areas with a verbal presentation as well as a letter to let those property owners know that on that date we're going to change, and there will be a little bit of a delay. Our time is the volunteers usually show up at about 7 a.m. to start the setup and blockades in the staging area. And the parade dispatches around 10. Yeah. And we're out of there by 11. So it's not that onerous a delay on anybody in that general area. And for the seniors area and that kind of stuff, we intend on keeping a lane open so that their tour buses or any emergency services that need to get in there can get by us. So we've staged all that out, and I'll let Joe carry on with the rest of the house.
Right, thanks, Mike. Yeah, so on 13th, just to be clear, on the west side, that one side lane will be clear all the way down for people to access whatever they have to access there. That's our plan. That would remain open. We've also spoken with and have permission already from the school board to utilize the west part of central school area for parking, and we can sort of muster in there and then come out to 13th Street and join the parade and flow there. I'd also like to ask City Council's permission to utilize the grounds in front of the arenas as well for the parade, for people to muster and park. One of the situations that we ran into over the years with the co-op was that people always wanted to drop their kids off, or people involved in some of the groups and floats really close to the float. And that would just create a real traffic mayhem sometimes if they didn't follow the flow chart. This time we're hoping that people will utilize the grounds in front of the arenas as the drop-off, and people can then just walk to their float. So there's some really good pros for going to this new location in many different ways there. So I don't know if this is a place to ask, but we would like to have permission to use those grounds for people, and perhaps mustering some floats if we have an overflow of floats as well. To that end, though, I would also have to ask the city if they could maybe grade that road. It's incredibly bumpy along the alleyway that would go from the arena to 13th Street there. So we would need to have some of the holes filled in it and just sort of graded if that's possible, please. The other request we have, and I'm not sure what the hours are, I neglected to look it up, but on that day, which is August 11th for the parade, we're wondering if the library is open in the morning, if they could delay opening till noon, just so that people aren't caught up in the traffic jam there as well. And I don't think that would be a major issue for that day, because I believe they're also participating in the parade, so that might work out well all around. And and then the city, of course, always has been very good in helping us with barricades. So as we get a little bit closer, we'll speak to the appropriate people to look at where we would want the barricades. And the only changes will be with the new starting area. But once we reach 102nd, all the barricades that the cities did before will be the same all the way down. And once more for this year, we'll be ending at the college. Not sure what'll happen next year because of the construction of the hospital, how that might impede our ability to access the college next year. But we'll look at that later, not this time here. So I think that's sort of where we're at, and open to any questions, comments, thoughts, jokes.
Morning jokes are always good. You want to thank both of you for coming in and giving us a presentation and ask. So I'll open it up to council here. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship, and good morning. Good to see you both. I mean, it's looking at the map, it seems like a fairly dramatic change from what we're used to. But it is your event, and your reasoning seems fairly sound. My main concern is simply, and this maybe goes back to my time at the event center, people are creatures of habit. Once they are, I don't want to use the word trained, but once they're trained to show up at a certain time in a certain place, and that's their place, it's if you don't need to make a change, you're hesitant to, because we're going to hear about it, and there's going to be some people, no matter how much we try and get the message out, who aren't going to get it, and they're going to register their discontent in that respect. What measures are you above and beyond going around to the actual businesses themselves, but with respect to letting the general public know the parade route is changing? What initiatives are you taking, and how can we help? Because
our social media platforms, our auction site, and our individual platforms on the normal networks will start broadcasting the route change as of tomorrow. We didn't want to start that until we came to council.
That's right.
And let council know what the program was. About 2 months ago, we did start alluding to there will be a parade route change, and ask the general public where they normally sat, what they liked about it, wherever. The majority of the people told us that they liked down by the hospital, or some of them were down by Lakeview, and some of them will be disappointed. However, we are giving them a much larger area to gather on the provincial grass grounds and city hall grounds to be able to adjust in that thing. As far as a major shift, we did do some research. We went to the archives and took a look at their photos. This isn't different. It used to go eastbound down 102nd Ave. So we are returning to
our
used
roots.
to be done historically. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
And in addition, we will have people posted at the co-op just to redirect people if
Yeah.
they show up there, because you're right, we thought of that as well, that people are still going to show up there with their floats or with their parking chairs and stuff like that, and we're all going to say, no, go over there. So we'll have someone there to direct as well, but as Mike alluded to, we're going to have lots of advertising going out. We want to start that, and we'll be starting that this week and making sure we get the information out as much as possible. People only read what they read, but we'll do the best we can, and we're hoping City Council, with your ways of getting information out, will do the same as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Apolonio.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you, Joe, here. I'm the liaison for the library, so I will pass on the message to Pam about the late opening of the library on that day. So I think we are aware of the new route, because we had our last meeting last 7th, I think. So we're aware of the new route. So I think we're participating in that.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much, Greg.
Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. Any more discussion? For me, I just, want to thank you guys for bringing this forward. It all makes a lot of sense to me and alleviate some of the issues before. And also, a huge thanks to Rotary. I know I've touched on this before, but Rotary does a lot in our community, and we're very lucky and thankful to have Rotary, but all the members as well, and what they do for our community. So thank you. I had a couple questions. One about the education. When people sign up for the parade, do they get like a package, and that's something that you can expose them to then as well? Okay. And then the length of this. So the actual start to finish length, is it about the same? Is it?
It's about 200 meters shorter.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a significant
real close.
change, yeah.
So if you're going to walk, you don't have to worry.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to count my steps this year. So. Okay, perfect. And then I guess just over to Kevin on the ask about the arena parking and grading that little bit between networks and there. Is that something that needs to, is that something we can just
Yes,
do?
through your worship, that won't be a problem.
Okay, perfect. So then the asks today would be the new route, and then the barricades, the city supplying barricades, or do we even need that?
Yeah, and through your worship, the barricades are standard every year. We do that. So
Okay, so perfect. Okay, so that will all be good, and then later on Mayor's update, we'll address the, the ask for the new route, and yeah.
Okay.
So we'll let you know today. So yeah, so thank you again for coming in. We appreciate you taking the time and for doing this. So thank you both.
Thank you for seeing us.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. All right. Next, 2.2, we have Leon Isu and Mandy Graham, Engage Sport North, Lindsay Borick, Northern Lights College Foundation in attendance regarding Northern Lights College Rodeo team update and Fall Fair Rodeo request, September 30th to October 1st, 2023. So, good morning, ladies. You're just going to push your button on the mic there, Lindsay. Yeah, and now, I got to figure that out there.
Okay.
Now it's all yours. So welcome.
Awesome, thank you. As you guys know, Mandy's not with us today. We have Jesse, our VP from Northern Lights College, with us as well. So we're just going to give you guys a little presentation on the Northern Lights College Rodeo and some history of what we've done last year. And you guys will see that you've received our program, I guess, from last year. We just wanted to share that with you, which had some really interesting information in it and stuff for kids. So I'm going to let Leanne start and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you. Do we want to just play the video? Or?
Yeah, just go. Okay. You go, you talk, and I'll
Okay.
switch. How's that sound? Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention. So the Northern Lights College Rodeo team is, again, been very successful. Do we want to just go for it? There we go.
Start.
Okay.
You're it.
It's out of order, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a really successful team of 20 again this year. Again, many of them were staying at the Mile Zero farmhouse from out of town, so we were bringing out of town student athletes in. We had coaching, weekly practices, really seen a lot of development in our athlete skills again this year. Again, we had to have them adhere to their student level of a 2.0 GPA to be able to compete. They were supported with the coaches. We had workouts at Gridiron for them, as well as personal training with Anna Birmingham. And athletic therapists supported us at the Canadian College Finals. And then the team manager, they really worked on their goals, achieving their rodeo goals and working toward their careers. They utilized a lot of their resources, including the supports that are offered through the school. We set them up with tutors right away to make sure that they were successful. We had 4 graduates this year. So we have somebody working in the oil and gas field for CNRL north of Fort St. John. We have a healthcare assistant, a hairdresser, a heavy-duty mechanic right here at one of the farm dealerships. So we had a lot of local success. Others are continuing in their programs, their 2-year programs, social work, and different ones. So of a team of 20 there, we had a lot of success.
and they're continuing on. We had our first international student coming to us from Australia this year. He competed in bareback riding and bull riding, and working through his heavy-duty mechanicking course. So,
Want me to do this one?
okay.
Okay, so last year we did our first BC's first ever intercollegiate rodeo in the fall, which was a huge success for us at the college. We had just over 124 registered athletes and 7 teams that came to us, which was really great. Out of that, we did prize saddles, which was a really huge draw for a lot of our athletes because everyone wants a great prize at a rodeo. So that was one of the big draws for us, and we gave away 11 prize saddles, which were beautiful, and 3 of them stayed within our home team. So, which really works in our favor because when we go to events, we make our athletes bring our prize saddles so that we can showcase them, which is really great. And in the 2-day event at the Lakota, we had just over 1,000 spectators come and go, which was really, really great to see, and people taking in the rodeo and experiencing it because a lot of people hadn't seen that level of rodeo within our community. So this year in the fall, September 30th and October 1st, we'll be hosting our 2nd annual BC Intercollegiate Rodeo, and 7 teams again will be competing. So we are just bringing this to council because obviously this is a huge benefit for our community, and utilizing the Lakota as well as the Ovintiv Event Center side to house our stock has been really beneficial, and we're really appreciative of the connections that we can make within the community, as well as bringing people into our community to see what we have to offer. And I think a lot of people last year, one of the things was that a lot of people hadn't even been on the Lakota side of the Ovintiv Event Center. A lot of them had been on the Ovintiv side or the pool, but not into the Lakota. So it was a really great opportunity for us to showcase that, as well as this year we have some plans for our international students and our students from Fort St. John to come and take part in the event while we're doing it. So, what's next? I guess I can touch base on the legacy piece. So what we did last year was Engage Sport North is a great partner with the Northern Lights College. So one of the things that we were able to do last year was purchase bucking chutes and gates for which we use in the Lakota. They're still set up there. We've been able to use them, and we've been able to see over the last year, high school rodeo, all the different user groups being able to utilize that infrastructure that's there. It's also removable, so that's something if the Lakota needs, we can take it out, but also it's nice for them to have that piece within the center to be able to use. So this year, what we're looking at doing is, for those of you who've been in the event or in the Lakota, there's a platform for the announcers, which normally sits in front of the grandstands, but now we're looking to move it behind. So at our event last year, it was moved behind. We used some staging from the Ovintiv and rented it from them, but the college is looking to purchase, or Engage Sport North and the college are looking to purchase that and leave it as a legacy piece for the Lakota. So we've touched base with the Lakota and their board, as well as Melina, just to make sure that facility-wise that's something we can do. So that's on order. So that's about a $10,000 legacy piece that the college and Engage Sport North will give back to the venue. Perfect. Want to do the, you can go how we can help.
Okay, that's this part here.
Next one.
Yeah. Okay. So in preparation for the 2nd rodeo, the college rodeo, we would again be asking council for the consent to use the east field of the Lakota for camping, trailer tying, and self-penning. We had a very successful event last year. The athletes coming in really appreciated that accommodation, as well as BC High School Rodeo was able to use it and did the same thing. We would again be providing the garbage bins for campers to use, so the site is tidy. Any manure and the bins will be removed and cleaned up after the event. We again will be requesting there'll be no fires in the camping area. Doesn't matter what the fire ban is, we're like, no fires. So everyone is very good about adhering to all of that, garbage in, garbage out. They leave the cleanup has been very minimal after these events, and we as a group go in after and make sure it's done. The second request is kind of more to the city about the fencing that is around the perimeter. The barbed wire is in a bit of disarray. It could use some tightening or put back up. Just as a concern, if something was to be loose, there's wire that they could get tangled in. But aesthetically looking as well, I think it would look better if the wires were tight and stapled back up. And then in driving around, it'd be nice if it was kind of boarded to match the Dawson Creek exhibition grounds. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I was just wondering if we could put it out there to see if your facilities could have a look at that. And then it would be matchy-matchy. So it always looks good. It's such a great piece as you're driving into Dawson. So we'd like to look at that. At the event, again, we would also like to look at the liquor option. Last year, we were able to come to council and ask that the liquor license be taken off the Aventive, and then Engageport North would apply to put a liquor license on. So at the event, we are able to provide low-cost beverages and create that kind of college rodeo atmosphere that the teams are used to in Alberta. Typically, it's $5 a beer. It's nothing fancy. It's coolers or beer, just a simple location. And so we would again just be asking that if it could be taken off, and we would put ours on just for those kind of 48 hours. Again, we would have security on site, run by a nonprofit organization with the Serving It Right certificates, and it's just another part of the event atmosphere that is appreciated. Anything to add to that?
I think that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Any
So,
questions?
I will open up for questions. I don't know if there's no questions. I had not necessarily a question, but I was able to attend last year, and it was such an amazing event. And yeah, it was just amazing to see everybody there. And I think the city is, and I could probably speak for all of us that we're thankful to have Northern Lights College here and what they do, but even to bring this to our community, it's just another dynamic, another thing that we have to do in our community. And it was a really great turnout last year when I was there. For the time frame I was there, it was full, and a lot of people seemed to really be enjoying it. And yeah, so thank you. And I think the asks are pretty clear. The liquor license, the barbed wire, we'll probably just have the staff look into that if it needs to be put back up. And then the consent to use the east field. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more. I don't know, Kevin, did you need any clarification on the asks? No? No? Okay.
One other update, I guess I did.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Parslow. Go ahead.
No, just a question to staff. The comment about the liquor license. How does that articulate with the global spectrum contract that we have? Are we able to do that?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so through your worship, we are able to suspend the license up to 6 times a year. And so we've already done that once for the Lobster Fest. So this would be a subsequent request. But short, yes, it can be done.
Thank you.
Might be, just to add to that too, I think we did have some discussion the other day about maybe looking at alternatives down the road, just in case, we were to suspend it and then there was an event at the Oventive Center. So we might, Kevin was mentioning maybe that we might look into what other alternatives there could be for the future, just if there is any crossover. So, but yeah.
The other update I forgot about the team was we took 10 of the team to the Canadian College Finals.
Oh, nice.
And we did come home with a Canadian champion, steer wrestling. One of our cowgirls is the reserve all-around champion. And then we had 2 runner-up. We had runner-up barrel racer, as well as bareback riders. So we had a very, very successful finals. Talk at the finals. Can't wait to come to Dawson again. At the finals, they give away 2 saddles. Dawson, we give away 11. So the whole college association is really looking forward to coming back to Dawson Creek.
That's exciting.
And another Northern Lights College Rodeo. So, and again, thank you so much to the community because it was really visible last year as well, the support. And it's part of the rodeo that makes it such a big success. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's amazing too how it gives like those college students just, that are interested in, rodeo, like
Well,
gives them
I
another
guess another
dynamic,
thing
right?
too is we had probably 6 of the team pull their pro permits. So at the spring pro rodeo, we had, I believe it was 6 of our athletes there were competing with the pros. And
Yeah.
they're going to be coming up again in August. So it is really the next stepping stone. And we're really excited to be having our coaches help build these athletes to that level that they have that confidence to go out and make their mark. So it's super exciting.
is. And I guess too, just to thank you, the community too, because without our sponsorship and our community stepping up, we wouldn't be able to do this. And so last year we had just over $60,000 raised in sponsorship through the college and the Foundation for Engaged Sport North. So it was really great community effort to come and bring it together and then be able to offer the saddles and all this experience for these students who then turn to look at NLC as their next part on their educational journey. So that was really, really neat because people want to come here and go to school so they can
Yes.
rodeo, which is nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, the saddles were pretty nice looking too. Like they
Thank
were.
you. They
Yeah, I heard some people commenting about them, how nice they were, and I seen them. So, yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you,
in.
guys.
And, yeah,
Have
have
a
a
good
wonderful
day.
day.
You too.
Look forward to the event. So,
Thank
Thank you. All right, our next order of business is 2.3. We have Jonathan, Burgess, Manager, Northeast District, the BC Emergency Health Service and attendance regarding the staffing update to council. So, welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. It's good to be back. And don't worry, Mr. Mayor, eventually we'll get my last name right.
Yeah.
I know it's a hard one. So very honored to be back here in front of all of you again, and also excited that it's mostly positive news again from BCHS. So BCHS's priorities is we're always trying to provide timely and exceptional service to British Columbians when and where they need ambulance services, as well as being an outstanding employer in supporting the wellness of call takers, dispatch, and paramedic staff. And we're enhancing emergency services in rural remote stations that serve your community and surrounding areas, and that includes conducting a national and international recruitment campaign, and bringing recruitment and training to rural and remote communities. So on a local level, when I talked to you last, we were talking about converting your 11-hour day car ambulance into another full 24-hour ambulance. I am very excited and pleased that we were able to fill all of our full-time positions with that transition.
Oh.
So we have 2 fully staffed 24-hour ambulances in Dawson Creek currently, plus a 24-hour backup on-pager car. So we were able successfully to fill every position the first time we posted them, which was extremely exciting for us. We've also, with our latest collective agreement, have a lot of training opportunities for staff. So it's an unprecedented time to join BCHS, in that we're taking people off the street essentially with a first aid, a clean driver's record, and a class 4 licenses as a driver only. And we will train them up to an EMR status. Once they're EMR, they're often getting full time, and then we'll train them up to a primary care paramedic status. And we're seeing this play out very successfully locally in Dawson Creek. I have people all through this stage of bringing people in essentially off the street with a class 4 license. They're very quickly becoming EMRs that we're paying for. And those EMRs, we have multiple EMRs in our local PCP programs at Northern Lights College through Columbia and the JI. And they're obtaining higher certification and full-time work very, very quickly. And all of this is supported by BCHS, which is unprecedented from the past. So as discussed, we have both full-time, regular part-time, and on pager. So Dawson Creek's model is we have 2 full-time 24-hour cars, 12-hour shifts, and then we have a backup car, which is on pager. And our collective agreement is working well at stabilizing staffing, increasing employee retention, employee wellness, and improving coverage and patient care. The other exciting thing with our latest collective agreement, for the first time, our wages surpass our colleagues in Alberta and are also much generally higher than what industry is offering. So we are in a very good position to attract paramedics from across the border, as well as to bring them to work community from the oil industry. So some of the improvements include a general wage increase each year of the agreement. There's also an added cost of living allowance to try and combat inflation for 2023, 2024, increased of shift premiums. And we're transitioning the scheduled on-call model in rural areas, which we have to get done by March. So locally, that would be Hudson's Hope and Tumbler Ridge will change their staffing models by March of next year. So the on-call pay was one of the most significant increases. We used to pay our staff $2 an hour to carry a pager. They're now paid $12 an hour just to carry a pager. As soon as we page them in, they are making their full wage for a minimum of 4 hours per call out. Night shift is $2 an hour, weekends $2.25 an hour. So all of this adds up to make it a lot easier for us to recruit and retain staff. Our community paramedic program is still going very strong in Dawson Creek. Our local community paramedic is one of the busiest in the area, if not definitely the north. And we're seeing a lot of great patient care, as well as collaboration between ourselves, Northern Health Authority, and other stakeholders in the area. So as I alluded to before, staffing is extremely strong in Dawson Creek right now. All of our regular full-time positions are filled, and this was an increase from 13 full-time jobs to 20, and we were successfully able to fill those 7 additional spots in April. April 1st was the transition. Looking call volume for Dawson Creek, and this is just for the city of Dawson Creek. This doesn't what our local paramedics in the station does is much higher, because that would include all the surrounding areas, Alberta, wherever our paramedics are needed, they go. So if you look from 2018 to 2022, it signifies a 42% increase in call volume. For just Dawson Creek, and even from 2021 to 2022, it's a 5% increase. So our paramedics are working harder, which also necessitated the adding additional staffing hours to local community. And then this is just 911 calls. So approximately half of our local paramedics work will be interfacility transfers. So either taking patients from Dawson Creek Hospital to another hospital, or from hospital to the airport to get flown to the care that they need across the province. So this is just 911 calls in your community. BCHS is an extremely complex system that we're working to always improve. And we're dealing with minor emergencies to multi-casualty incidents. Your local paramedics were beneficial in preparing for when Fort St. John went on alert, and we were looking at starting to move some patients out. Dawson Creek paramedics were involved. They were down in the district of Tumbler Ridge during their alert and evacuation, and they were involved in going through the pass to provide ambulance support with the local, or with the recent bus crash outside of Prince George. So they're making a difference across the area. And any questions for me at all?
Thanks, Jonathan. Lots of great news in there. So I will open it up to council first, and then I have Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship, and welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for the presentation. It's, I guess, congratulations is in order. Obviously, when you hear there's new funding available to staff a position, I know from my experience here and in Northern Health, that doesn't always equate to more staff actually being onboarded. So the fact that you guys have been able to do that in what seems like a really quick turnaround is something I think that's cause for celebration. I guess the one question I had that was kind of alarming, as you pointed out, the dramatic increase in call volume. I mean, without getting too specific, obviously, what is driving that? Is that a reflection of the overdose crisis? Is that population is reaching a certain age, or like if you had to ballpark it, just because we do, we receive regular updates from Committee of the Whole and we talk with Northern Health and stuff like that, and that seems like a fairly dramatic increase. So.
It is, and thank you for your question, Councilman Earl. But I think this isn't not just a local Dawson Creek problem. This is an industry-wide concern across Canada and North America, is that ambulance call volume is essentially outpacing any projection that we had years ago. The opiate epidemic will definitely not is part of that number. I think that if I was to contribute to two things. One, it is the aging population. As we get older, we have more medical needs and more need of the system. And also, we've seen an increase in 911 calls for the population between 20 and 50 years old. So we've actually seen an increase in call volume of our younger population that historically they weren't necessarily calling an ambulance. So it's definitely across the board, but yeah.
Okay. So it might be something worth looking into further. I'm just wondering, is that a matter of people can't get family doctors, so medical issues are going unaddressed that eventually turn into emergencies or what? But anyway, something maybe we should spend some time looking into, but thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Parslow, did you have any questions?
No, I'm just delighted with the good news, and we know how important ambulance services are, and so that's great.
Thank you. I didn't, have much. Obviously, I agree with what Councillor Earl said and Councillor Parslow. I mean, lots of great news in here, and it was nice when I was reading through there to see all things that, obviously the call volume was concerning to me in the last couple of years, like to be up 400 from 2020 to 21 is concerning. And that, I guess, to me kind of seems around the time when, we've had, COVID and some facilities open in our community too. So I was curious about that as well. But do you map out like how, like, for example, like how many times you go to certain areas? Like if it's, just to throw out there, like if there's, one housing area or there's one building, like do you know how many times you go?
It can be identified. I wouldn't say that routinely we look at certain residents per se. Sometimes when there's specific patients that we have call multiple times, then we start looking at partnering with our partners in Northern Health as well as referring them to our community paramedic to try and get these people the resources that they need to not necessarily have to call 911 every time. Obviously, we will always respond to a 911 call, but a lot of times we are able to mitigate the quantity of 911 calls by finding more services for these patients.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously good news that, you were able to get the funding for more team members and staff and fill those positions, which is great. The other part of that is now that you're full and have added positions, are like the call outs, like are you achieving what your guys' goals are? Like is that enough staff or are you still short or?
So, Mr. Mayor, great question. We are full for full-time staff. So our big recruitment drive right now is for our casual staff. So we work under a model that we have our full-time staff working their regular schedule. We have irregular full-time staff that work to fill the vacation of our full-time staff. But we need casual staff to backfill our full-time employees when they're sick, when they're on short-term disability, and for a variety of other reasons. So we have an okay amount of casual staff, but I'm anticipating that they're going to take full-time work as we keep expanding full-time work across the piece. So we are still very actively recruiting. There's a very, very shiny light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to stabilizing our staffing. We have all the full-time positions in Dawson Creek, but we still need to keep actively recruiting to have that casual pool to ensure that we're not burning out our full-time staff. Because right now our staffing levels are incredible, but a lot of that is from our full-time employees working multiple overtime shifts every month to keep our trucks on the road. So very encouraging overall, but we still need to find and recruit casual staff.
Yeah, okay, fair. And then I'll ask this one question. Obviously, it's a big thing in the community right now with the Northern's Health OPS site and, the amount of traffic that's there. And like, how much time are you, like, do you know how much time like the ambulance is spending at those facilities or that facility? Is it?
I would have to get back to you with that,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. I don't have the exact time with me yet.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. I mean, obviously lots of great news and we appreciate you coming in here and giving us an update. It's definitely nice to hear the good things too. And like Councillor Earl spoke to how quick it seemed like the turnaround was, because it was only, less than a year ago where you presented and there was a lot of real struggles. And so it was nice to know that somebody's listening along the way and helping you and giving you the tools to deliver the service for the residents. So.
And thank you. And I think the last really good piece of news from the Dawson Creek enhancement is that all but one of the full-time positions were filled by local people. These are people from the Dawson Creek and surrounding area that have been waiting in some case, over a decade for work to come to them in their local community. So the vast majority of our staff are from the area and want to stay. So I'm anticipating not only have we filled them, but our retention should be pretty high moving forward. So it's a real success story in that way.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And also too, to add to that, just how you said that you work with Northern Lights College on their programming. So I mean, that's another benefit of, the community and what we are to have that and those relationships, right? So
yeah, we are definitely outside of Dawson Creek. To go get your primary care paramedic, you're looking at Prince George or Alberta. So there is a draw to this community, and we are definitely actively recruiting people in those classes to say, look at BCHS and look at Dawson Creek, and have you considered working here? So it is a huge draw for and a great partnership for Dawson Creek.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you, John. Appreciate you coming in, and yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Yeah.
I think I feel like we're out of place here.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're welcome to stay and listen, or you can leave.
I
So.
thought there would be more interest in the park thing.
Oh, the first item.
Oh, on the public hearing.
And we thought there'd be people here to,
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it worth
Yeah.
staying.
Well, thank you. Well, it was nice seeing you, and
Nice to see you.
yeah, have a wonderful day.
People on Facebook watching.
Yeah. Thank you.
I do have a couple questions for Kevin, but maybe you can see them some of the.
Yeah, he's got a card too at the front there if you need his number. So yeah, thank you. Good seeing you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice.
Yeah.
That's the most polite way anyone's ever told me I'm going or leaving.
Yeah. All right, our next order of business is 2.4, Duncan Melkinson, Executive Director and Delegation for the South Peace Art Society, in attendance regarding the 2023 annual report. So welcome, Duncan.
There we go. Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks so much for making time, Your Worship and Council and staff. This is what I understand is an annual obligation of the Art Gallery to provide, just an annual report on where the Art Gallery is at. Present its, statements. We file them with Recreation downstairs. But I just wanted to provide a brief overview of some of the things that we're excited about right now and some of the things that we've been up to, and just in the hopes that we can be, good partners and both, work together to our shared benefit. So what I wanted to talk about today was basically our mission. We're all familiar with what the Art Gallery does, but, I wanted to highlight, emphasize that a little bit, and then discuss a little bit about what we're excited about in 2023. I wanted to zero in as well slightly on our youth education program, because that's a particularly fun thing that is a little bit underrated in terms of the Art Gallery's service offerings, and then our financials, and then just close off with a brief thank you, because there's a lot of people to thank. So the South Peace Art Society, this is the mission statement that's, that we've got in some of our, foundational documents. It's a little bit wordy, but, that we want to be, some of the main emphases to take out of it is that we want to be a cornerstone for arts and culture in the Peace Country. And we want to be that, a gathering place where people are welcome to create, share, develop, and exchange artistic and creative, knowledge, experience, and skills. We want the art gallery, and there's a lot of competing narratives about the existence of the NAR park and how it was built in 1982 and such. But we do want that park to be a hub for town. We want people to be able to to meet there, be comfortable there, and play to Dawson Creek's strengths. And the art gallery and the NAR park are one of those. So there's a number of different divisions you could refer to them as, or programs that the gallery runs. We obviously curate exhibitions, and that's the throwing the paintings on the wall. Kit Fast, our curator, does a great job of that. We've got our youth education program headed by Catherine Patterson. She runs youth education, adult painting classes, a number of different things that try to engage youth and develop a lifelong relationship with the arts. We've got a wonderful framing program by Council's Grace. Has been awesome partnership between Paige Fortier and the Art Gallery, and has been providing a great service to there's hundreds of folks annually that take advantage of the framing service that we have there. Then we've got our consignment shop as well, and that's again hundreds of different artists. The last quarterly payout that we did to all these local artists that make and sell their pieces in that consignment shop there. It was probably, my hand was getting tired. It was about 150 checks or something like that. But that's every year we're paying to folks that, or every 3 months we're paying to folks to try to support some basically entrepreneurs that are invested in their own art and their own craft. So there's so much to celebrate there. And I think when we think about the mission or why we do this, I think it's key to helping people love living in the South Peace, and engaging in a way that's really, really satisfying and rewarding for themselves personally. There's a lot of different threads that are woven through the art gallery that we're proud of. So I couldn't not mention the entrance renovation that we're very excited about. Huge kudos to Jocelyn, Melina, to Joe, to a bunch of different folks, Kevin, that have been awesome in trying to move this project forward. Council as well, in supporting this for 2023. The Heart Walk 2023, we're moving ahead on that, and that's a program that we run all the way from Chetwynd up to Fort Nelson to try to exhibit the works of local artists and different businesses, and to try to get foot traffic in, but also exhibit work. And that's a neat program that tries to play to where the foot traffic is and engage people in art where they already are. So we're excited about that as well. It's been a strategic effort of ours over the last little while to try to make sure that we're ethically paying, or paying nationally established rates for artists to hang art in the art gallery. So we've received funding from the BC Arts Council recently to try to build out what's called our CARFAC, or a professional rates program. So we will run what's called professional shows, in a couple extra instances over the next 2 years. So we're pretty excited about that too, because it's there's a lot to celebrate. There's a tremendous amount of talent in the North Peace and the Peace River generally, and this is a great opportunity to basically make it a more attractive and give people a ladder into professional arts circles, nationally. So we're pretty excited about that development. We're working on advancing some of the musical events out of the art gallery. We regularly run what's called a Home Roots concert series in partnership with a provincial organization out of Alberta, and we're going to be continuing to run one-off events and stuff like that outside of the elevator, inside the elevator, stuff like that. Again, it's playing to that idea of us being a hub. And then there's art rental revamp. We're hoping to repair and revamp that space to make sure that we're respecting a lot of the art rental pieces that we have in that satellite building that we have. One exciting thing is we've recently partnered with Poo Scoopy to run Saturday programming concurrently with their summer reading program. So we're going to be providing, a few one-off classes in Poos over the course of the summer. So it's kind of neat for us to, expand beyond, just Dawson and get out there into the rural areas and engage people all throughout the South Peace, because that's in part what our mission is. There's lots more. Youth education. So we, as we know, we run year-round youth programming. One of the key pillars that we have in our youth program for this year is to try to build, partnerships with other folks. Within and without Dawson. We've been speaking with School District 59 about potentially running some after-school stuff at the different schools themselves, which we think might be a good partnership given recent provincial mandates about after-school care and before-school care. And there's other, many community arts groups and artists that already have those established ties in like the rural areas, for instance. Angela Fair, just as an example, runs a wonderful workshop out in Rolla. So these are just conversations that we have with individual artists saying, hey, what are you doing? Can we support you? Is there a way that we can partner to our shared benefit? But these programs, these youth programs and these education programs generally, they just, again, to speak to their importance, they're prioritizing, social engagement, creativity, inclusivity, problem solving, and, community involvement in each of the programs that we have. So we're pretty excited about what these programs can do for youth over the course of their life, and just, again, it's playing to that loving where we live and, loving the South Peace. These are way too small, sorry. I do have them, of course, they were provided to you electronically. I'm going to file I have the paper copies of our 2022 statements with myself as well, so I'll make sure that those get filed with Melina before I leave here. Some of the high points to note, this is the balance sheet for 2022. Our net position increased modestly in 2022, which we're pretty proud of. There's a good trajectory. High level financially for the art gallery, there were a number of COVID supports that the gallery received, in 2021, 2022, and while those were awesome for stability, I think part of the challenge now is adapting to the momentum that we've observed through COVID and making sure that we're able to make sure that things are right sized for as we move forward. Operating statement, again, 2022 was a positive year. We balanced things out fairly well. We ran a expansion program with the support of the Northern Development Initiative Trust, expansion program for our youth education program, which was wonderfully successful, and we saw, I think, a 20% uptick in unique headcount in our youth education program overall in 2022. And again, the big challenge here is just, or the big opportunity, I guess, is just keeping the positive momentum going. And then we've got statement of changes in net assets. But again, if there are any questions that, councillors have, I'm prepared to take them. So thank you. There's a long list there. There's a few names that, I've omitted, from city staff there that I was even reflecting on this morning, where I'm like, why didn't I throw so-and-so in there? But there's been so many instances where we reach out to city staff and it's just like, yes, how can we help? Yes, we're here to support. And we've found it to be quite a productive, quite a respectful relationship, at least in the short time that I've been at the gallery. And while there's, that's not without saying that the gallery's not, it doesn't have, opportunities to, build itself out or anything like that. I'm not trying to portray some, mega strength or anything, or rather just don't raise our utility bills. But we are very, very thankful of all the support that we've had over the last little while. And we're looking forward to the next few years and the next many years in that space. And thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Duncan. I will open it up to council. First here, Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, great job. I so appreciate how much the Art Society is giving back to the youth through the programs and that. I think that's wonderful. Much needed with the lack of programs within the schools. I think that's great. I'm wondering, with the farmers market being in the parking lot right out front, have you been able to leverage that at all for your artisans at all?
Yeah,
setting up tables, gaining more interest to coming inside?
We have, yeah. So I was personally at the gallery, I think the first 2 weekends that we that we've had. I think we just had our third weekend with the farmers market, and this is a napkin, back of the napkin kind of thing, but our foot traffic was up about 100% week over week, and our sales were up 100% week over week. So, you know, that foot traffic from the farmers market is migrating into the elevator, which is positive. And there's been a number of vendors that have been able to take part in the farmers market as well, that, you know, vend at the gallery too. We've communicated to a few select vendors to say like, hey, you know, this is an opportunity for you, but there's an opportunity to get the word out to all of our vendors still and say like, hey, you know, here's a great chance. You know, we've got so much foot traffic and stuff like that.
Just a win-win for the farmers market and yourselves as well.
And we're playing to our strengths. Like sometimes, you know, people try to throw a paper airplane against the wind and stuff in town. And this one's a cool example of like, okay, well, we have it's one of the most, that traffic circle, I would hazard a guess at being the most trafficked spot in town. And, you know, folks just naturally pull in there on the Saturday, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I attended a paint night a number of months ago. Are you going to continue doing those?
What was it? I don't remember.
Oh, when you had the local artisans come in, they had 45 minutes to do their painting.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we will do that this fall. Yeah, Battle of the Brushes. Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of cool... There's so many cool programming opportunities that we have and partnership opportunities with different businesses. I think there's been conversation with a few different local establishments about us, you know, even getting out there and saying, okay, well, here's your canvas, and running a paint night at those establishments too. So, yes,
excellent.
we're passionate about it.
I just found it got people in there as well, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Excellent. Great job. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Apolonio.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, you had to push your button again. You only have to.
Thank you, Your Worship. Duncan, nice to see you here. And of course, again, thank you very much. I'm just only echoing what Councillor Kyle said a while ago. Thank you very much for your hard work and doing some improvement in the art gallery. I'm delighted for the past few weeks. Like, for example, like I'm seeing now the farmers market at the NAR Park, which is very engaging because you will see the products there. And I think the last time that we were there, like the multicultural fusion, which is more vendors and more goings on the NAR Park, which is more utilized. I think I'm addressing the question is just because I was there. I was there a lot of times because I'm always, you know, going around.
I saw you there.
I saw the paving or the road by the park is kind of bumpy already. So maybe the city of Dawson Creek would kind of look at that because it's the most important part, I think, of the city because it's the more engaging part of welcoming the tourists, starting from there and then going to Alaska or maybe somewhere else. So yeah, I was driving a lot up there because I'm exposing the newcomers to be there, like picture taking, and something's really bumpy. So if the city could look on that, so at least it will be more welcoming and more pretty to look at. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. Anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to say a few things.
Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Thank you. I guess just building on what my colleagues said, I can provide a lot of feedback I get from artists regionally. First of all, the tone of the art gallery is excellent. And I'd like to congratulate Duncan and staff. People continually tell me in my role in the art community in the region how well received they are and how helpful and how pleasant staff is. And that's a big wow factor for people because they're not always treated that way. And they appreciate it very much. The city really has an outstanding facility there. Some artists refer to the Dawson Creek Art Gallery as the Guggenheim of the region. And by that, it's how a grain elevator has been converted into a wonderful art gallery. So anyway, that's very important. And just building on what Councillor Apolonio was saying, the aesthetics of the area, it is truly a gathering place for people who are traveling up the Alaska Highway, but it's also a gathering place for local residents and I'm sure hope the city can pay attention to the tarmac, the asphalt. It is certainly doesn't give a good impression. That is something that I think needs to be put forward. A question to Duncan. What plans are there from the point of view of expansion of the facilities? I do know that there's an art studio upstairs, but it's hard for people who are elderly and somewhat physically challenged to access. Is there any plans for using other parts of that facility for an art studio?
There's two things that come to mind through your worship, Councillor Parslow. There are two things that come to mind. One is that the art rental facility, or that satellite building that we currently house the framing program run by Paige in, does have a bottom space that could potentially be used as a studio, but the access issues still aren't completely abated by using that space. So yes, there are some opportunities, and the other one might be the elevator, where we could make that available, during fair weather to folks to use that as a creative space. If somebody, comes, if a member or a member of the public comes to us and tries to pitch an idea where they can, engage people in art, like our general ethos is like, yes, let's see if we can make this happen. Like let's try our hardest to not be a damper or any kind of a gatekeeper on people expressing themselves and getting out there and doing it. The other thing that comes to mind, Charlie, number two, is Bill Wonka, you might recall. I don't know if he needs an introduction here or not, but, definitely a significant, community member, decades ago. Left about a $50,000 amount with the gallery for earmarked for capital, but largely for some kind of annex to the art gallery. The gallery's had that in a separate account. It is in those statements there, but gallery's had it in a separate account for some time. So that's a good file that somebody could pick up and try to advance over the next while to say, okay, well, here's an additional programming space that people can run creative programming out of or enhanced programming out of with not so many of the access issues that currently exist, for our bin top programming space. So that's there's kind of a two-pronged answer. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, I want to do this in the gallery and here's a way that we can do it, we're going to try our hardest to make it happen. But number two, there's a couple of different ways that we could, leverage capital money or, dollars that we have on hand to build out the physical layout and enhance the NAR park going forward. So.
All right. One last question, if I may. Public washrooms. I mean, if it is a gathering place for people, access to public washrooms are 3-4 flights of stairs. Is there other public washrooms available at the museum?
I believe there are, Councillor Parslow. I'm not. Oh, maybe that's one for staff. That's not my building, but yes, there are 2 washrooms. I was there like last week, and they're pretty small at the museum, but the washrooms that we have at the art gallery, they need a little bit of, I think, attention. We have made our 2024 financial plan capital requests a couple of weeks back for the city's consideration, and they did include a renovation of the washrooms themselves. In terms of running washrooms on the bottom floor, it's again there's significant money that's involved there, but I think there is a chance to make the existing ones that we have at the gallery a little bit better, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting concerns that have been expressed to me, right? So that's, and with the farmers market there, we need to think about how we can provide accessible washrooms.
We do maintain a pretty close relationship with the farmers market, and it's been an awesome relationship. And we're going way over time here, folks. I should really wrap this up. we have basically mentioned to the farmers market that if, we do see incredible growth, we might need to see some kind of outside option to try to, basically just to support the growth that we're seeing at the farmers market there. So that might be a conversation as it builds out, Councillor Parslow.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Duncan. I just wanted to touch on a couple things in there. One, you had the picture of the Tumbler Ridge evacuees in there, so I just wanted to get a huge thank you to yourself and Natasha that put that together on a real short notice, welcoming the Tumbler Ridge evacuees. I think it was within 24 hours, the two of you had this planned with our business community, and I had the pleasure to be there too, but it was nice. There was almost a couple hundred evacuees from Tumbler Ridge, so thank you for that. I did want to touch just on the financial statements. There's, they looked good. Obviously, some key points that stuck out to me is one, that the membership value is up, education is up, and the fundraising is up. So, I mean, if I was just a numbers person, I would look at that and it would say that things are going in the right direction. But knowing you and seeing what the art gallery is doing in our community, it's clear that it's a great asset to our community and very much about community and growing that. So we're very thankful for you and the art gallery as a whole, Duncan. So thank you. So
thank you so much. It's a trust as well. There's so much volunteer work and so much labor and work that happened before myself and the whole team being there, and we want to do right by it. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you again for the time. So I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. So next order of business was 3 late items. No late items. 4 new councillor business. 4.1, we have memo from Councillor Parslow regarding the council procedure bylaw amendments. Councillor Parslow, did you?
Okay.
Oh,
yes. So if I can preface this, this is not a reactive. This is not motivated by any discontent with our council proceedings, but it is intended just to be proactive to change a good system and maintain it. Would require perhaps a little tweaking of our bylaw there as it relates to procedures. So, and all this is inspired by the council orientation we had when we were first elected for this term, presentation by Eli Mina. So the motion is the council procedure bylaw be amended to provide the following changes to the council meeting procedure. 1, provide the chair with the ability to accept an amendment to a motion by unanimous consent. And if unanimous consent is provided, then no amending motion is required. 2, remove the ability for one member of council to end debate on a motion without the unanimous consent of all of council. And 3, provide the chair with the flexibility to allow informal discussion prior to a motion being made.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor MacDonald?
If I can speak to this.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
As I said, it would be fair comment to say that quite often we do these things. And yes, we do. But our council bylaw procedure doesn't align with some of the things we do. The whole notion of this is to make council proceedings more democratic and to guard against any misuse of opportunities. And so as we're all in a good position, I believe, and the way things are being done right now, we all feel quite comfortable. All this is intended to do is to tweak the procedure bylaw to enable those things that are covered in the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. One thing I just wanted to add is, thank you for putting this forward, Councillor Parslow, but as well, if this does go through and is approved, this will go to Joanne, but there's some other discussions around, the whole procedure bylaw in general, so Joanne would then come back at a later council meeting with these and any other recommended and kind of deal with them all at once instead of changing them initially, so I just wanted to point that out. And was there any discussion on this? No? All right. I will call this motion to vote. So, Councillor Parslow, how are you voting?
I think I'm in favor.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't want to assume.
No.
The vote is closed, and it's carried. All right. Next order of business, 4.2, memo from Mayor Dober regarding strategic priorities, agenda order. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the proposed motion that staff be directed to prepare an amendment to the council procedure bylaw that adjusts the order of business on the agenda by moving the strategic priorities chart section earlier in the meeting to follow the delegations section.
Do we have a second? Councillor Sudnick. I guess I can speak a little bit to this, why I put this forward, but I think we spent a lot of time on our strategic priorities and we have a really great, platform set out. So I just felt having it early on in the meeting where we can, all have some good dialogue around it. We're all fresh. It then becomes more of a priority for us versus having it later on in the meeting where, where days are getting full and we're just kind of jumping past it. So that's kind of the plan. So, yeah. Councillor Parslow, can you just mute your phone when you're not speaking?
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. Although I did like the dog barking while I was speaking.
I know.
I could throw my voice a little bit. But yeah, that's why that was put forward. So is there any discussion? No? All right. I will put that motion to vote. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. Vote is closed and it's carried. Was there any other new councillor business? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship, and I will make this brief, and I apologize not getting this on the agenda, but this conference was after the Wednesday. So on June 22nd, 23rd last week, I was able to join our Development Services Manager, Bill Darnbro, and our local Community Action Team Coordinator, Ali Harold, in attending the Local Leaders United Convenience Gathering Hope Conference held in Vancouver by the Provincial Community Action Initiative Team. Like I say, our development service manager, Bill, was there, sat on a panel, represented our city very well. Bill did a great job, as well as Ali in representing our local community action team. At this gathering, we saw representatives from each health authority in the province, other CAT team leaders from across the province, and a number of bylaw officers from Prince George, Kamloops, and other communities. And it was just in regards to the opioid crisis and different strategies being proceeded by different groups throughout the province in dealing with the very obvious issues we have with the opioid crisis, homelessness, etc. Saw some great strategies from around the province presented, including the Surrey Fire Department's second responder program, in which they follow up overdoses, non-fatal overdoses within 72 hours to try and help those that have overdosed find their way to different programs and the help they need, as well as the Cowichan Valley's Housing Association's Village Project, and some truly great bylaw strategies being engaged by Prince George and Kamloops, and just some great things being done out there to try and help and fight this opioid crisis that has been a provincial emergency for 7 years now. And some great speakers, including Bonnie Henry. Some good stuff that I'd like to share with yourself and Kevin and discuss in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor MacDonald, and thank you for attending and being there. And I look forward to learning more about it for sure. Councillor Apolonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just only speaking on behalf of Mayor Darcy, of course, and thank you very much, Mayor Darcy, because all the meetings were fell on a Monday, which is the deadline of submitting all the memos. And of course, I was only asked by Mayor Darcy to represent the city. First one is the meeting with the Northern Health Authority and of course Northern Lights College about the internationally trained health professional, which is the third round already of the meeting happening, which also is spearheaded by the former Mayor Dale Bumstead. So it's about the meeting like how to augment the healthcare shortage staff, and of course how to address like the international trained professional already here in Dawson Creek or in Canada or in British Columbia, how to help them to expedite or hasten their application for their professional before and to apply it maybe in Dawson Creek or in Northern BC or maybe wherever in British Columbia. So it was an engaging session or meeting, third session, and I hope the Northern Health will hear during the meeting, which attended by some of the international trained professional. And I think there's a meeting today with the Ministry of Health. And of course, the second one is, of course, the just concluded Multicultural Fusion, which engages the city for the multicultural diversity in the city, which we participated. And it was a good day to spend the weekend there. So that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Apolonio. Any other new Councillor Business? No? All right. Next order of business, I'm actually just going to amend the agenda because I need to leave a bit early today, so I'm just going to go to 10.1 Mayor's updates. So I know this is fairly long. I'm going to actually just skip through a few of them just because time permitting. So at the end, if there's any questions on anything else ahead, just please ask. The first one I did want to touch on, I did already today, but the first one was the evacuee barbecue. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to Duncan Malkinson, Natasha Cortez, the business community, and Dawson as a whole. It was an event put on just to welcome and to give something for the Tumbler Ridge evacuees to do. So they put it on a very short notice. There was a couple hundred folks that came and from Tumbler Ridge, and it was just great to like have dialogue with them, and they really appreciated it. And they also, the one common thing I heard from a lot of them wasn't just that event, but Dawson Creek as a whole was so welcoming that they felt it definitely helped help them with their burdens. And they were just, I heard it numerous times. So just a huge thank you to everybody that, was at the ESS Center, to city staff, to our whole community. So it was amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you. And it doesn't surprise me. Dawson Creek is an amazing place. So it didn't surprise me, but I really wanted to pass it on. Next, number 5, I had a meeting last week with Carmen from BC Hydro. So she's just kind of one of the head departments for their Site C, the actual camp that's out there and facility. So she's part of the process on what's going to happen with that camp next. So I had some dialogue with her around it because I just had some ideas and talking to some other people, and then obviously with the OPS crisis that's going on, we had the conversation with her about, the potential for that to be, a wellness center or a treatment center. I also spoke with, Isaac, who is presented here from the treatment center, Northwinds. And so I'm going to connect the two of them. And I'm not sure if that's what'll happen, but it's definitely an option. So I just wanted to kind of connect all the pieces. So I wanted to give an update on that. There's a lot of things, so I wish I could share a little bit more, and I might, depending how we're doing for time, but I'm going to skip to number 11, Northern Health, possible OPS site. So a couple things here. I do want to put a couple motions forward. So one, I want to put a motion forward that we send a letter to the executive of Northern Health the Minister of Health, MLA Bernier, and the Premier of BC on our position on where the new OPS site is going to be, and also to state our dialogue that Kevin and myself have had in that letter with Northern Health. And we really don't believe that our voice is being heard or the community's voice is being heard. And we on this side, we're an elected body. We're here. Actually, I'll talk to that after I get the motion, but that's the motion that that would be us sending a letter to those four, on that. So that will be my motion. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, I'll speak to it a bit. So, us on this side, we're elected by our community and our residents, and it is very apparent to me, just on the dialogue that I've had, and I know some of the councillors have as well. And our position was that we weren't in favor of it moving to that location downtown for a lot of reasons. There's school kids that walk by. There's vulnerable people in a dental medical clinic. We've had a lot of concerns in that area in the last 6 months or 8 months with, the facility that was in there before. So we, had that conversation with Northern Health. We really believe, we didn't say we were not against the sites. We believe that, it's a piece of the puzzle that, helps these vulnerable people. And we have a lot of empathy for them, and we want to see them do well and help in their lives. But we were not okay with it being there. We suggested, a portable unit or adding a unit to the hospital property as there's room there. It's very close to all the resources they need. The doctors, the nurses, that health and wellness, the mental illness division of Northern Health is located in the hospital. So it all made sense to us. So they came back with that. It was, some reasons that it was, there's vulnerable people there. It's outside of the downtown core, which, we were very strong against that we didn't believe those were valid reasons. So we just feel it's time for us as a city, to take, a stand on it, that this is where we stand on it, and we're going to hold to it. So, we get that it's a provincial crisis, so we don't have much say, but we really have tried hard to mend that relationship with Northern Health. And we've seen how this happened last time the facility was opened, and we were told that the communication would be better. But so that is what the motion is. We would like to, if approved, we'll have a letter drafted in a day or two. We will send it out to those four individuals. We will give them a couple days or however much time to respond, and then we'll make the letter public, is what our intent is. So I don't know if there's any questions around it. Once we have the letter drafted, I'll definitely show it to council. But I don't know if anybody has any questions. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. So without having been privy to the conversation with Northern Health, one thing I would want or hope would be in the letter is to note that this is a second attempt at finding a location. The previous location didn't work out. From what I understand, it had a lot to do with, as you mentioned, a lack of consultation, communication on the front end, but also resourcing and oversight was a challenge. So, irrespective of where they locate this, if they don't address the resourcing and oversight piece of it and the complementary services that go alongside it, I don't see how it's going to be successful. So that would be something I'd hope would be emphasized in whatever letter we send.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, I will call that motion to vote. Councillor Parslow? Councillor Parslow, I didn't quite hear what you said. Okay, thank you. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, I was going to go over the UBCM meeting requests. So we did the request, but I left the paper somewhere. But we had to, on the requests, we had to put the agenda, what we wanted to talk about, and then also we chose 2 councillors per. So I do have the list and who is on the list, but I don't have it with me. So I will send that off to you and let you know. So I think it's sitting on my desk. But next, sorry, I had another motion to actually on that one to jump back. I just wanted to make a motion to direct staff to look into what other communities are doing in regards to the OPS sites. And also if there's anything we can do, the position we're in. I think we know the answer to some of that, but I just wanted to get that out there that we're looking at that and doing that. So I have a second on that. Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? No? All right. I will call that motion to vote.
So I'm in favor.
Thank you. Vote is closed. And it's carried. Thank you. Next order of business was one that's not on the list, but Kevin and myself were approached by a individual from the business community about wanting to host a town hall about from our understanding, from the about the OPS site. So they would want myself, Kevin on the stage with, a representative from Northern Health that they would get, somebody from the RCMP and, maybe a few other individuals. I just, wanted to have a little bit of discussion around that and see what council's thoughts are. I mean, from myself and Kevin, and from what we initially understand, if it's, about the OPS sites and where we stand, I have no problems being up there. I think there's, some dialogue out in the community that, we're not doing anything or not voicing, and, that's not the case. So I'm not, afraid to go out there and really share what our vision is and what, those that don't know me, what I'm about and my leadership style. So I'm comfortable being in that environment. I just wanted to kind of put out, and Kevin might want to add some stuff too, because.
So through your worship, just the other thing to add is we were told that it is a facilitated meeting, that they would have a trained facilitator there, because of course my concern was we didn't want it to turn into a public stoning. That, if there's value and process and an ability to have a bit of dialogue, then I think that's good. But there needs to be some structure to it. So those were our concerns. And I think, like the mayor indicated at this point, the group, the local business group, we were told they want to host the meeting. There's still some things that we need to work out as far as logistics. They're wanting to host that within the next couple of weeks, is what we're told. We need to follow up with the individual today or tomorrow just to see if this is something we still move forward with. I think what we need to be aware of is if for some reason it changes from what we're led to believe at this point, which, like I said, it's facilitated and it's about OPS. If it turns out that it's something different, then we may need to do something different, i.e. not attend if we're not comfortable with it. Or as an alternative that I talked to the mayor about is we always have, it could be something that we host. I'm not saying I want to do this, but I'm just saying as an alternative, what that enables is if we were to host a town hall, we're able to put controls in place. We have a facility, we have security, we have agendas, and we can structure it differently. But at this point, it's an invite for us to attend. So we'll leave it at that at this point.
Okay. Does anybody have any? Oh, can we have some discussion around it, Brenda? Yeah. Okay. Is anybody? Councillor Earl? Sorry, I'll turn you on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is this an official organization or just group of individual business owners in the downtown core?
No, it was, all that we know of now is it was to business owners, but there's obviously, you hear it in the community, there's some people that want to know what we're doing, and
Yeah, I mean, it's, as Kevin said, it's my only reservation is, I guess, that this, providing an open forum is all well and good until it turns into a Facebook comment section come to life, or oftentimes what happens is you're expected to speak to it, and the RCMP gets put on the spot, or you get put on the spot, and you're expected to comment on unsubstantiated rumor and innuendo and hearsay from an anonymous third party that somebody heard, and that rarely serves the issue. So interested in seeing what the facilitator can do to ensure that the conversation is constructive and fact-based, because these things do have a tendency to go off the rails if you don't impose some structure on them.
Thank you. Councillor Apolonio? Oh, you got to push it. You don't have to. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just echoing. If we may invite maybe the SPCRS, because of course I think during the first town hall meeting last year about the OPS or this thing happening, I think they were not invited as per them. So maybe invite them, the speakers or the My Place, and even now we can, because during the last year I think they were not informed about the town hall. So, and during our last meeting, during the CAC, which I liaison, I hope they will be invited next time in the town hall meeting, so at least they can speak for themselves, not being like, hurled accusation that they're not doing their job or something like that. So,
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I will just echo Councillor Earl and Councillor Apolonio there, and the need for a town hall to be structured and ran by the city so that those that need to be there should be there, are there, proper questions are asked, and it doesn't turn into, for lack of a better term, a live Facebook comment section. I would be nervous for us to attend a town hall that is not a town hall ran by us, and what it turns into, and how comments are then misconstrued from that. Right? I think we aren't afraid to share what we're doing, and we are doing the right things, and we're doing the best we can. But we're opening ourselves up there for, I don't know the term I want, but to be taken down a path we don't want to go down, right? I'd be very nervous about that.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. I guess just hearing a bit from a few, should we have a motion that directs us to learn more about what's going on now, and if this isn't the case, because for us to do a town hall, there is obviously that takes a lot of staff time. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Kevin.
Yeah, so through your worship, what I'm hearing is that there is some reservation from a couple of councillors about opening us up to the unknown, and that is the issue is we don't know, because we're not, at this point, it's very preliminary. We don't have all the details. And again, if we're not controlling the meeting, we're just an invited guest and we don't know what we're in for. So we can certainly see if we can get some more information on that about, who's facilitating, and what that meeting may look like, and see if we've got any level of comfort with that. Again, I guess, like I said, I don't want to host a meeting. There is work, a substantial amount of work that comes with that, and cost. And at this point, we hadn't planned on doing that. We were simply just an invited guest.
Yeah.
So if council's not comfortable with us going as an invited guest and they don't want to facilitate a town hall, then that probably answers that question. But I'm not sure we're there yet. Maybe we need to get some more information.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Earl? Yeah. You bet. Just one sec, Councillor Parslow. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Okay. So I apprehensions notwithstanding, I trust your judgment. You're in Kevin's once you get some more information. If you think there's value in the engagement, I would never say no to that. I would also note it might be worthwhile asking the organizers if wherever this is going to take place, if John Better and the South Peace Crime Prevention Society could maybe set up an information table, and maybe the community action team as well, for those who are looking for resources or how they can get involved in a constructive way. I think that would be a worthwhile resource to have on hand.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow?
I think it's very important for what and you attend any meeting to know what the outcomes are, and so I would send a request for the outcomes for sure. If you don't attend, then that can only lead to further calls for meetings and so on and so forth. So I think clarifying the outcomes, clarifying that there is a person who can facilitate meetings present, who has the skills. We've experienced so-called facilitators before who are not facilitators at all. So I think requiring that there be a proper format are reasonable things, and requiring the outcomes and the process to be followed. So,
Okay, thanks, Councillor Parslow. Okay, well, I think that clarified some things. I think it's Kevin and myself will go back and have some more dialogue, and then we'll determine from there. And okay, you're clear, Kevin. You're good. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna jump back through some more of my mayor's updates. Every time I want to speak, there's a dog barking, and maybe that's a sign that I shouldn't be talking. So, just going to go back. Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. I had actually, I think it was a 3-hour tour with Marla to all their facilities, and wow, living here my whole life, I had no clue what they did, and I felt a little bad about it. But I mean, they want it that way. They operate quietly, and they got a very strong leadership group, and they're more about just action and doing the right things than they are about promoting what they do. So, but yeah, it was just amazing to see all their facilities. I recommend if you ever get the opportunity. Marla is extremely passionate about what she does, and I got to see. I can't remember exactly how many facilities, but I think we went to 10 different facilities and got to meet a lot of their clients, their staff. It was really like heartwarming to see what a group of individuals is doing for some vulnerable people in our community to give them hope in life. So it was really impressive. And and the other thing too is they employ, I think it was 150 employees in Dawson Creek. So they're one of the biggest employers that we have in Dawson Creek, and all of that is just kind of. They just go about their business day to day. They do what's right. So it was just amazing. Next, the Mayor's Project. I had another one of those with Jessica. I had some notes on that too. I'm a little bit disorganized here. Yeah, so I had another one with Jessica, who once again volunteers her time to do this, to get out and photograph and showcase local businesses, and has asked me to join her. So it's just an amazing person, Jessica, for doing this, but it's really great to be part of it and go out. So we did one last week. We went to B&T Ceramics. I got to visit with Corey for a bit. Another great local business person downtown in our community. Just an amazing store, and has so many different things in there. So it was amazing to see that, to visit with them. And I haven't been in there in a couple months, but it's always changing in B&T. Like there's always new things, and so it was just great to be there. Elcan, I'm trying to think now. We went to Elcan, the new dental clinic, and met Genevieve and the ladies there. So obviously been in the old Greyhound facility a lot. But it's such a beautiful building with like the big woods and the glass, and she decorated it amazing. I don't know if anybody's been in there, but she kept the integrity of the actual building, so it's got all the natural woods and brick, and but really modernized it. Just another great addition to our community, and it's just nice to see individuals like that investing in our community, and it's prominent on a main street in Dawson Creek. If you ever get the opportunity to go in there and meet her, she's an amazing lady, and they got an amazing team in there, and just a really beautiful facility. And then we went to Vintage with Jessica and Kelly. Vintage is downtown. We got to spend some time with Kelly, who has a line of clothing and glassware and stuff that's showcased in Vintage. So a local person with a very local spin on their product. So it was very nice to see that. Growth and Grove, Nicholas, a gentleman I met that he's moved here a couple of years ago. He was in the healthcare system, him and his wife, and he has since opened a counseling service. So he opened a facility right across from the credit union. A gentleman, which I think Dawson Creek is lacking a little bit of male counselors, in that field, what he offers. So again, we had a really great conversation, and he's really about just, helping who we are as a core and those people that need help. And it was great. So, then we went to Ovintov. We've all been there a few times, but Judy and Dustin were there, spent a little bit of time with them. I don't think I need to share a lot of what they do because it's, we've been there and I've shared about it before, but, they have an amazing team down there too. So it was just great to reconnect and connect again with that team. And then we ended at the Rebel Beauty with Isha Peak, which is just on 15th Street there in the old veterinary clinic. She opened the new beauty salon. I can't remember what, the beauty salon, but also as well, just amazing to, I've seen pictures and stuff of it before, but to actually get in there and see what they offer, it was pretty amazing to see all the different, ladies that are in there with their different businesses and different things that they do and understand it, but definitely felt like a wraparound service in that field. So, and just again too, right, a new business in our community, somebody else investing in our community, putting money into something, really enhancing that property. The outside looks amazing, but when you go inside, it's a whole new world. It's very modern, and so that was great. And that was all for that one. And then we're going to take a break for the summer and then start up again in September doing those. So next National Indigenous People Day at Northern Lights College. I was able to attend there. I think that was last week. Well, it was last week. So I got to go there from 11 till 2, I believe it was. They had, lots of different First Nations there. They had some speakers, one from Fort Nelson that I've heard before, was just absolutely amazing. And it was just good. It was a good turnout too. There was probably, in the couple hours that I was there was probably a couple hundred people there and out. So there was a lunch there, and it was a great day. Next, solar energy. We had a meeting with Peace Energy Co-op, Kevin and myself, just, to learn more. They did a study for the city quite a while ago just on, going to solar and different things. So we just kind of had some initial conversations with them on, some, just really listen to them. They presented to us, showed us what they had. They're going to come back and do a little bit more of a study on some of our buildings and work with Kevin once there's something a little bit more concrete, or if there's a plan or a direction that we think maybe might be possible for the city, or Kevin does, then we'll bring that to council. But it was great to just see how innovative they are and all the exciting new things they got going on. They got a lot of projects in the Peace Country region that were great. So Doig River Cultural Training, we had that last Thursday. Get mixed up with all my days, but we had Doig River here just to do a presentation on the cultural training for the day. So very educational. It's probably one of the most educational parts that I've had sitting in this chair is learning from our neighbors and what they're all about. And, and each time you get to go meet with, different communities or, the treaty nations, you just learn something. So it was extremely educational. So just wanted to thank them. I had Canelta School, I had grade 1 and 2 class in the school or in the city hall on Friday for the morning. I got to spend with them. So that was pretty exciting. They got a tour of the RCMP, the fire hall, and then I gave them a tour of City Hall. And if I could do the stuff with kids every day, I would, because youth is huge for us in our future. And it's inspiring to see 20 kids that when they leave here, they're like glowing about how excited they are about the city. And it was funny, I seen a little boy when I was out biking the trail yesterday, the Rotary trail. There was a little boy that was in the class, and I got to see him, and he was like so proud and excited to see me when I biked by. So it's like, to me, that's how you make change. You get youth excited, and those youth are going to be our next leaders, and hopefully sitting on these chairs. So on both sides, really. So it was exciting. Also got the opportunity. Mountain Christian School invited me up, so I went up there. Presented actually with Mayor Veach from Coopy. Both of us were there, so it was we presented together just about what it's like being a mayor, what our responsibilities are. We did it to a kindergarten and grade 1 class, and then we went to 5 other classrooms. So it was we were there for an hour. It was just great, though, again, to spend the time with the youth. It was amazing, and I look forward to doing more of that. And I hope the more that I do, the more the schools get on board and reach out about doing it, because it's busy being in this chair, but making time for youth is what is important to me, and will help our future. The second annual Pride Walk, I believe, was last Monday or maybe the Monday before, but I got to attend that. Again, a great turnout. There was, I don't even know how many people, but there must have been 300 plus. So, a lot of, great people. It's a great organization. I'm bringing awareness to them. So it was well attended, and I was thankful to be there. And most of the council was there too. Actually, it was a great day. Warm out. We went for a walk and sweated a bit, so it was good. 12, the farmers market. I've had the last 2 weekends actually got to get to the art gallery in the NAR park for the farmers market. So it was just wanted to address that on there. It has moved to the NAR park, and both times I was there. I mean, this week was the South Peace Multicultural Fusion Festival was there as well. So there was a high turnout. But yeah, it was just great to see lots of local vendors. I got to visit with all of them and really talk to them. So that was great to see. BC Provincial Nomination Program meeting. So Kevin and myself had a Zoom meeting last week with the Minister's Office on the nomination program. So they're planning on coming up here July 19th. They're going to be here for 2 or 3 days. The date's not officially set, but July 19th, I believe, is the date they're going to be in Dawson Creek. And really just coming up here because they want to do a couple seminars on education, educate the business community in Dawson Creek. And Councillor MacDonald sat in as well, sorry. They're going to come up and just really want to educate, and they really want to listen to, what's working for the businesses, what's not working. So, I felt like it was a great start that they're at least reaching outside of the greater Vancouver area and realizing that there's some struggles that we have in northeastern British Columbia. So I thought it was really great to see them taking the initiative to come up here. And then next, grad 2023, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the graduating class of 2023 for all the schools in Dawson Creek. I know it's the next steps of your journey into life, and you get to take everything you learned. And like myself, when I graduated, I got a big wake-up call that it was a little different on the other side than school. So yeah, exactly. So we're definitely proud of everybody, and we wish them all the best in the future, and and most importantly, just to be safe. And I always get this saying, and it's, I read it a while ago, but it's like, out of all the things you can do in your life, the number one thing is to be kind. And I just believe it's something, if we all did that, it would just be a better world that we live in. So if I had any advice to them, and if they're listening, that would be it. So, and then the South Peace Multicultural, I touched on that already, but Curtis took over organizing that this year, and it was an amazing event down there. I didn't get to go to the whole event. I got the tail end of it because I was at the Soccer Diamonds for the day, coaching and refereeing soccer for the youth. So, but I got there at the end, and Curtis, I had a great conversation with Curtis. He figured that there was over a couple thousand people that attended it throughout the day. They had the farmers market going on. They had different presenters, musicians, artists the whole day. So he said it was very successful. And and I know there was some chat through the councillors too that all attended and said it was extremely beneficial. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. And that is all I have for my mayor updates. So I don't know if there's any questions. If there's no questions, Councillor Apolonio?
Just a quick note. Part of the internationally trained professional, if you could include Northern Health on the BCPNP program, because I think they're not on board on that. So, yeah, they're not hiring because they have employees like students from other countries, and they're not saying they're not providing papers for them. So maybe they could consider that. Northern Health Authority.
Okay. I think that was brought up in our conversation with them too. We'll definitely note that. So thank you. If there's no other discussion, I had a couple things that have come up for me this afternoon. So I am going to hand my seat over to Councillor Earl as the acting mayor is going to take over my seat. I potentially thought I might be back this afternoon, but I won't be. So so thank you. And did you want to do a 5-minute recess first, Councillor? Yeah, really. Okay, we'll do a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back. So thank you.
It's just joining us. I am not Mayor Dober. He stepped away, but we'll try and keep things going. Please bear with me as I use this control console for the first time in a live setting. We are moving on to item 5.1, the adoption of minutes from the previous council meeting on the 12th of June, 2023. I get a motion to accept the minutes. Councillor MacDonald, seconded Councillor Kempf. And all those in favor, or any comments, I guess I should ask? Or omissions? Comments or omissions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Okay. Okay. So everybody else ready for a vote? Voting is open. Charlie, are you rejoining us?
Yes, I will talk to you now.
Okay.
After serious consideration, I'm voting in favour of the minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. All votes are in. And do I just hit the pause or the stop? Stop. Okay. And it is all in favor. Excellent. Okay. Any business arising? No. On to correspondence, 7.1, letter from Raistlin Van Spronsen, resident of Dawson Creek, regarding a request to explore transit alternatives. Turn it over to, and just for some context, I understand Mayor Dober and Kevin. I guess, Kevin, if you want to give some context as to the discussion that took place.
Sure. So through your worship, the mayor and I met with Raistlin. He had some concerns, as Council's well aware. He's been a vocal advocate for transit for a number of years. We thought it was a great opportunity to meet and just go through some of his concerns, kind of explain how we got to where we are and just some of the challenges we face. And it was a very, very good meeting. And really what we took from it is, Raistlin just wants to help. He's got some good ideas. And I think there's a great opportunity for us to work with someone like Raistlin as a bit of a champion in the community that really understands transit. So, what you see before you is, I think, what he took from the meeting is that I think there probably is an appetite to to take a look and see what options there may be out there for transit in the community. So, yeah.
Okay. Direction from council. Any motions? Councillor MacDonald, the floor is yours. Oh, no, that's not how. Uh-oh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion to have city staff investigate and pursue the $50,000 planning grant offered by Infrastructure Canada's Transit Solution Fund to look into a redesign of our existing public transportation program.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder for the motion? Councillor Kempf, seconded. It is the first hand I saw. Got to keep my head on a swivel now. Any discussion? Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you. Just to speak to the motion, I think it's readily apparent to most in our community that our existing transit system is not functioning properly. It's a very expensive program to not be functioning properly. And with this available grant and this opportunity to reinvestigate, redesign, I think it's overdue time to do it.
Wonderful. Any other comments? Councillor Parslow?
Yes. So of course, I trust Councillor MacDonald, so I guess this is a silly question. But have you had a chance to look at the scope of this grant? It's not assuming that we revamp a transit system, is it? We just look at alternatives other than transit?
Through your worship, Charlie, it's from my understanding and my limited research, it is just to help fund the city to redesign our existing transportation system into something more appropriate for a rural community. It is attached to another infrastructure grant that is not open right now, but should be open in the coming months, years. And to apply for that grant, we will need a good plan and design to take to that grant ahead of time.
Just a question through to staff. I assume you've seen the grant Councillor MacDonald is suggesting we apply for?
Yeah, so through your worship, I did take a quick look, and the planning grant is, as I recall, it was meant for altering or redeveloping, or to look at those existing and alternatives. So I do think it fits, and I mean, we'll take a closer look at it, and if at all possible, if it's something that we can utilize and apply for, then that would make sense.
Yeah, and I know, and just my own thoughts on this, one of the linchpins of this issue is, do we, okay, the existing model isn't functioning the way we'd hope. Do we move forward with the constraints placed on us by BC Transit, knowing that they provide some matching funding to offset the subsidy to the taxpayers, or do you go completely independent, in which case you lose that funding, but you might ultimately come up with something that is more responsive to the community's needs? And I'm just wondering if the parameters of the grant allow us to explore a wide range of options that don't include BC Transit.
So if this motion passes, we will take a look at that and determine whether that, if for some reason it doesn't, if it constricts us, we'll come back to council. But I'm hopeful that it'll allow us to look at all alternatives, because I think, there are more than one options out there.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none, we'll, 1 second for the voting to start. And the vote is open. And Councillor Sudnick, did you put your card back in? Excellent, thank you. And Councillor Parslow, how do you vote on the matter?
Affirmative.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, all votes are in, and it is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Item
Well,
7.
can I just interject here? So Councillor MacDonald made this motion, but we need to respond to Raistlin and Spronsen.
Would you like to make a motion with respect to how you'd like to do that?
Yeah, I would like to thank him for his correspondence and assure him that Council will be exploring this issue thoroughly.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor MacDonald. Any comments? Seeing none, we're going to take a second, and I'm going to fill some airtime here while Brenda gets this primed up to go. Charlie's just throwing stuff out there at us, so we're all having to vamp a little bit. We ready to go? Okay, and we'll put it to vote.
I'm affirmative.
You're affirmative. Excellent. Okay. And it is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you. Now, moving on to 7.2, if there's nothing else on that one. Email from Clair Langlois, resident of Dawson Creek, regarding consideration for an extension to the water utility bill. Before, I guess we'll give staff a chance to kind of give us some context, but just one question before we do. Is it on the agenda because it was addressed specifically to council, or is this not because the bill isn't delinquent yet? It's not necessarily falling under the existing policy around making arrangements for payments?
Yeah, so through your worship, one, it was addressed to council because there was a request in there. And because their utility bill is coming due at the end of the month, at which point it would become subject to a 10% penalty.
Okay.
So that's why the request is in front of it. Chatting with Michelle this morning, there is an opportunity for them to apply for, get involved with a payment plan, essentially, to repay this, which will alleviate the penalties. And so my suggestion would be that that you just direct staff to work with the individual and work with the payment plan, and we should be able to accommodate the request.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's great that they're being proactive, I guess. We always appreciate that. I'm sorry for their troubles with the matter, but always appreciate people reaching out to us before it becomes a matter of delinquent bill. So without that, before we have a motion, does anybody have anything they need to say or any questions for Kevin, or are we good to do a motion? Oh, there we go. Sorry, buddy. Councillor MacDonald.
So I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to work with these community members in developing a repayment plan that falls within our existing structure.
Seconder, Councillor Kempf. Any comments? Okay, not seeing any comments. We will go to a vote. And voting is open. Councillor Parslow. I feel like you're talking, but your phone's on mute.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I said yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, and vote is in, and it is carried. Thank you. That moves on to 7.3, email from Jason Gowda, resident of Dawson Creek, regarding invitation to attend documentary screening on June 29, 2023 in Fort St. John. Councillor MacDonald.
I'll make a motion that we receive this for information.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, seconded Councillor Kempf. I guess go to the vote, or, yeah, all right. Okay, and vote is open.
I say yes.
Okay, thank you, Charlie, or Councillor Parslow, pardon me. We're good. And it is carried. Thank you. On to item 7.4, a letter from Trevor O'Dwyer, Dawson Creek Seal Swim Club regarding request for RV camping August 4th through 6th, north of the Kemboric Aquatic Center.
I move that we grant their request.
Seconded by Councillor MacDonald. Making a mess of this. And just a question through to Kevin. This is a recurring, just to confirm, this is a recurring request we receive from the Seal Swim Club for an event like this every year?
Yeah, through your worship, this is a fairly typical request that we see, I think, annually for their event. And I know Chelsea from the pool has already chatted with Trevor, and if council approves it, it's all good to go.
Okay. Just, I guess, a follow-up question. Do we track on an annual basis how much free camping we allow in and around the Kemboric Aquatic Center? Because while, you know, there obviously is an interest for the community in facilitating these types of events, as someone's noted previously, this does, not do our local campsites any favors.
Yeah, so through your worship, we do not track it. We could go back and see how many times we've granted it, but then we would have to talk to the user groups and see how many numbers that actually equates to.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how many.
Yeah, maybe something to keep an eye on moving forward, just so we're not.
Well, and it might be something that we could request for moving forward, is that they, give us some sort of an idea of how many people they anticipate. Mm-hmm. That will give council some context of like, oh, this is for 10 people, 20 people, however many campers are coming, and that just be good information.
Yeah, I think, if we're, giving free amenities, which, okay, there might not be a hard cost to us, but it does potentially, there are trade-offs, so we should be mindful of that. But if there's no other discussion or questions, we can call the question. Councillor Parslow?
Yes.
Are you in favor?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So that is carried. And that brings us to 8 reports. Item 8.1, report number 23-102 from the corporate officer regarding land sale policy amendment. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-102 from the corporate officer regarding land sale policy amendment be received. Further, that the amendments proposed within this report be approved, which include amending the timeline for the semi-annual publication of the land sale list, aligning the policy with the public notice bylaw, and reducing the initial fee for the required advertising of the notice of disposition.
Thank you. Do we have any seconders? Councillor Sudnick. And then comments, questions, any context needed from staff as to what? No, we're good? All right, well, then we will call the question. And the vote is open. Councillor Parslow?
Yes.
Thank you. Wonderful. It passes. That brings us to 8.2, report number 23-103 from the corporate officer regarding the 2022 annual report. And Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to recommend the report number 23-103 from the corporate officer regarding 2022 annual report be received. Further, that the Dawson Creek annual report for 2022 be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Apolonio. And any comments or discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote.
Yes, from me.
Councillor Parslow is in the affirmative. Excellent. We're just humming along. Okay, and that is carried. And it brings us to 8.3, report number 23-104 from the Capital Project Manager regarding invitation to tender 2023-16 Capital Roadworks 106th Avenue sanitary replacement. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that report number 23-104 from the Capital Projects Manager regarding invitation to tender 2023-16 Capital Roadworks 106th Avenue sanitary replacement be received. Further, that council award the invitation to tender 2023-16 Capital Roadworks 106th Avenue sanitary replacement to Amdt Industries for the tendered price of $281,300 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Kempf. And any discussion? Any questions for staff? Just, I guess, one thing, Kevin, if you could give staff insight. It looks like there was only one bid received for this, or one qualifying bid, I guess, and just any policy around what happened. Because usually we shoot for at least 3, correct?
Yeah, so, I mean, we put it out to tender. We only get what we get. And in this case, we got one bid who's qualified to do the work. And within budget, so no concerns on that front. Yeah, I can only assume by this response that everybody else is busy, which is a good thing.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions, comments before we go to a vote? Okay. And we are open for voting. Councillor Parslow?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Parslow is a yes. And that was all carried. Good. Thank you. It flashed by very quickly. And that brings us to section 9 and item 9.1 under bylaws, the land sale, Chamberlain Park encroachments, amendment bylaw number 4561, 2023 for consideration of adoption. This is a bylaw that is very near and dear to the hearts of those of us who started in 2018. And I just want to confirm with Brenda, is this the last? Is this the end? Is putting it to bed?
The OCP and zoning is still to occur, and then the park dedication should be completed before the end of August.
Okay. So can I get, Councillor Kempf, seconder. Councillor MacDonald. Any comments? No? All right. We're going to vote, and it is open. Councillor Parslow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. We're good, and the motion passes. Or the bylaw is approved, I guess. And that brings us to 9.2, report number 23-105 from the Development Services Manager regarding referral comments for OCP Amendment Bylaw number 4563, 2023 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4564, 2023. Oh, Councillor Kemp got it, sorry.
Oh.
Councillor MacDonald was in there first, but that's okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-105 from the Development Services Manager regarding referral comments for OCP Amendment Bylaw number 4563, 2023 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4564, 2023 be received. Further, that the OCP Amendment Bylaw number 4563, 2023 and the Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4564, 2023 be given 3 readings and adopted.
Okay, and a seconder, Councillor Sudnick. And any comments or discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. And the vote is open. Councillor Parslow?
Well, it's a pretty hard decision to make, but I come down yes.
Excellent, thank you. And we're good, and that motion passes as well. So that brings us into the issues, the asks for the mayor's business. And we're going to go for about another, I think, 10 or so minutes before we break for lunch, because we all got to pop out to head to an event, but we'll try and get through this. So 10.2, the Rotary Clubs of Dawson Creek proposed new Fall Fair parade route. So just some clarification. They don't necessarily, they're not asking our permission to change the parade route per se, because that's their event, correct? I just want some clarification on what the ask was, if it was just the barricades and like they're looking for an endorsement, I guess, but they don't need our permission to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So through your worship, this is with the
Parade
route.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. I mean, I guess the ask could be the new route, although why would we have any concerns with that unless there was some technical reason that it, couldn't be done, which I agree that although this is a change and a significant one from the original route, it is much safer. And there has been a number of traffic concerns and issues in recent years. I mean, it is a highway that we're crossing, so it is challenging. So I think this is a much safer situation for everybody involved, and might actually work better.
Okay.
The barricades it's an annual thing that we do, so that's not an issue. One thing that we should expect to see come yet is for the Kiddies Parade. We haven't seen anything on that front yet, but that will be coming, and that usually comes with the ask for barricades as well. And I think the key is going to be getting the messaging out that the route's changed, because there's a lot of folks that will line up from the credit union to the Mile Zero post and they won't see anything. So we will certainly assist with anything that they put out. We'll push that out as well.
Okay, so in this case, would motion just be to grant the request and affirm their wish to change the parade route?
Yep. Oh, yeah, and they did have the request of grading the laneway, which needs to be done anyway. So we'll make sure, I think we've already sent that request through, so we'll get that done.
Okay, so
Jeremy?
Yes, Charlie?
I'm just wondering here, notwithstanding all that's been said, because we're impeding normal traffic, I think we should authorize the route.
Okay, so we should still authorize.
So there will be a special occasion permit road closure that they will go through just like every year, and that goes out to all the agencies such as transit, ambulance, and all this. So everybody will be aware of that closure.
Okay.
So that's part of the process. So that should be fine, and that'll make sure we notify everybody. There was a request.
Doesn't that action require authorization of mayor and council?
No, that's just staff process.
Okay.
They did have the request about the library hours, and so we'll reach out to them and have that discussion and see if that's a possibility or if whatnot.
Okay, yeah, I think, is that what you wanted to speak to, Councillor MacDonald?
Yeah, just the library.
Yeah, and there's plenty of time for them to get back to us if there's an issue with that, presumably. Yeah. Okay, so can we get a motion?
Oh.
Councillor Kemp?
Sorry, I just had a question. I thought
sorry,
they
go ahead.
also were asking to use the arena parking lot as well during that.
So that won't be an issue. We'll double check to make sure that there isn't something going on at the facilities there already, whether it be the arenas or the curling rink. But
And the grading, same thing?
Yeah, it's all good.
So just one motion to approve the request should suffice? Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to make a motion to approve the request presented by the Rotary Clubs of Dawson Creek in regards to their annual Fall Fair Parade.
Seconder, Councillor Kempf. Any questions or comments or discussion, Councillor Parslow? You good?
No.
All right, then we will call the vote. And it is open. Charlie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, and the vote is closed, and it is carried. Brings us to 10.3, NLC College Foundation, rodeo team update and fall rodeo request. So there were the 3 items to the request, and I think the only one that really had a hard cost associated was the fence fixing, right?
Yeah, through your worship, there is a barbed wire fence that runs along the south edge of the property of Lakota, along the highway. And I did notice that there's a couple spots that probably could be some repairs, so we can certainly look into that. The request of them putting boards on the fence and doing it much like the Exhibition Association, although that would look great, that would be a significant expense that we don't have in a budget. But the repair of the fence, I think we can easily accommodate.
Okay. Any other questions, or do we want to get a motion? Councillor Sudnick.
I'll just make a motion that staff get the fence fixed as per the request.
And the camping,
And allow the camping as well.
and the liquor license.
And the liquor license.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Apolonio. Any discussion or comments? Councillor Parslow, anything?
No.
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll head to a vote. And the vote is open. Councillor Parslow, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And we are good. And the motion is carried. So next we've got item 11, Chief Administrative Officer Operational Update. Do you have time to do this before we break, Kevin?
Through your worship, I'll just give you a quick update on a couple of, really just on our recruitment process, and then that'll probably take us to where we want to break. Just wanted to give council and everybody an update that we have filled the Community Services General Manager position. So that will be, the individual, Ryan McIver, will be coming starting mid-August. We are interviewing the General Manager of Operations. We will be soon interviewing the corporate officer position. And we have posted for the Chief Financial Officer. And so these recruitments have been keeping a number of staff busy, just the process itself. So, but we feel good about a number of them. Happy to have one filled and some good candidates in the others. So,
excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Nothing in diary. Nothing in the consent calendar that I can see. I'm just trying to get through as much as we can before we have to break so we can dive into the committee of the whole afterwards. Nothing, strategic priorities chart. It has been accepted. It is updated and online and available for the public to view. And we do have some discussion later on downtown revitalization. Otherwise, anything to update on with respect to anything else? No. Oh. Charlie, you talking to me or are you talking to the dog? Okay, it is not. Thank you. Any questions from our friends in the media? No. Okay, so I think now would be an opportune time, other than, I know, is it 16.3? We are going to push to the next meeting, just because Mayor Dober does want to be here for that in particular. It has to do with the proposed downtown community hub and what that planning looks like moving forward. So do we want to make the motion? I'll vary the agenda and we can make the motion. Do we table it, or do we... Is tabling the right term, Brenda? I'd look to you
No,
for...
through you, Mr. Chair. Motion would be to defer the item to the next meeting.
So we're looking for a motion to defer item 16.3 to the next council meeting. Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship.
I would like to make said motion to defer item 16.3 until our next council meeting.
Okay, and can I get a seconder? Councillor Kempf. Did I throw you off there by varying the agenda, Brenda? Okay, thank you. Sorry, just trying to be respectful of everybody's time and get what we can get done while we have the time to do it. Okay, we're good to go. Well, the vote is open. Councillor Parslow? Okay, Councillor Parslow is in the affirmative, and the vote is closed, and the motion to defer is carried. So we will take another break, and I believe we're going to be back not till 1:30, and that will have to do with item the committee of the whole. And we are going to reconvene the open portion of the City Council meeting for June 26, 2023, and we're heading right back into the Committee of the Whole. And we are on item 16.2. We've got a presentation from Katrin, Justin, and Kelsey from Urban Systems. They're here to talk to us about downtown development. But prior to them speaking, if we could get a bit of background for the public and for council from our CAO.
Good afternoon. Yeah, just a quick introduction. We started this project in 2021. We received a grant from UBCM, which was great. The total value of the grant was $185,000, and this is just one piece of the grant work. There'll be subsequent pieces that council will see in the not too distant future, but this one focusing on the downtown revitalization piece. So I know they've been working hard trying to find some time to come and get in front of council and share this. So welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Welcome. I'll welcome you to the delegation table, and if you just hit the button in front of you, we can get you underway.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us be before you. We're excited to be here today to meet with the City of Dawson Creek to talk about increasing downtown development. And so as the CAO mentioned, this is something that we've been working on with city staff for the last couple of years through a variety of looking at it from a variety of different angles, which we'll get into as we go through our slide deck. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce myself and the rest of the team here with me. So my name is Katrin Saxty. I'm a community planner just based up the road, and half my time's like down here in Dawson at our urban office, and I've been up in the Peace region for almost 20 years, actually. With me is Justin. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Katrin. So, my name is Justin Bear with Urban Systems. I'm out of our Vancouver office, but I've been working in Fort St. John and Dawson area for 10 plus years now. I've been up here quite frequently, and I'm one of the leads of our land economics group. So I do all sorts of things related to market forecasting and economic viability. And I'll let Kelsey introduce herself virtually.
Hi, everyone. And my name is Kelsey Tyerman. I am a community planner with Urban Systems. I'm currently based out of our Victoria office, but started in the Fort St. John office 2.5 years ago, and have been really lucky ever since to continue to work on great projects with amazing clients in Northern BC. So thank you for welcoming me virtually today.
All right. Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Justin. So just a really quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. So a little bit of an overview on the project, just going into a little bit more detail from what Kevin mentioned. We'll talk a little bit about the policy context in the city as it relates to the downtown. Justin will take us through the background work that's been done, and Kelsey, and then the downtown tools and incentives. And then we'll just recap with sort of some next steps and open up the floor for some questions. And if you have any questions throughout, do please feel free to interject. So really what I wanted to just talk a little bit about is an overview. So in 2021, as Kevin mentioned, the city was successful in receiving grant funding through the UBCM, I think it was a Development Approvals Grant. And the whole purpose of this grant was really to find ways for the city or for a local government to reduce barriers to development. And so this could be all kinds of things, whether it's increasing your development approvals process or coming up with incentives to really facilitate and encourage development. What kinds of ways can the city streamline things, make things more efficient, make things more amenable to facilitating development? And so that's the core heart of the grant. And so as Kevin mentioned, there was a number of different initiatives that we looked at under that, and this downtown piece is one of them. The reason this downtown work came about was back in, I think it was around 2016, the city of Dawson Creek actually did an economic development plan. It was called something like Vision 2016. I can't quite recall the full name of it. But one of the main action items from that plan was to get a baseline assessment of where the city is at. And so that was one of the things that was not done, and that really formed the foundation for the work that we undertook. Once a baseline was to be done, the next step then was to develop a strategy. And so the baseline measures is really looking at things like, what do you have in the downtown? What's vacant? What are business owners and operators struggling with? What are the challenges that they're facing? How do residents both within the city and within the region interact with downtown? And then there's also, we need to project into the future. What are the opportunities there? How can we help realize those opportunities? And so that's what the baseline looks at. And so from that, then we looked at these three main things as part of this downtown work. What are the employment trends within the community overall and the downtown area specifically? What are the patterns of movement in and out of downtown? And what can this tell us about the extent of Dawson Creek's regional drawing power? And what is the extent of opportunity in downtown for additional retail and service commercial development over the next 20 years? And so again, all of this is really leading us to the purpose of this particular assignment, which was to identify tools for council to consider that would incentivize and increase development activity in your downtown core. So, as I mentioned, this work is founded on things that have been talked about in a variety of plans and policies over the years, the Vision 2016 as one example. Also your official community plan. There's a number of policies in there that really relate to supporting prosperity, economic diversity, so considering incentives that encourage investment in downtown Dawson Creek. This is in your official community plan right now. Vacant lands, how do we encourage development of vacant lands in Dawson Creek? What's going to motivate and mobilize people to do something with the land that you have available? And then downtown revitalization, section 8.5, so encourage the development and redevelopment of the downtown to create a vibrant community, because that's going to keep people here. That's going to keep Dawson thriving. And so even through the engagement in the OCP, there was a lot of themes that came up, right? Diversifying the economy, more investment and support in and the support of small businesses in the creative sector, encouraging infill, supporting temporary uses on vacant lots. And it's all things that help draw people to the downtown core. And so all of that, again, was articulated through some of these policies. And even more recently, in your strategic plan, you actually have this goal to create a vibrant downtown that will support and attract businesses, encourage new residential opportunities, and offer a unique visitor experience, which might include such things as a downtown revitalization vision. So they're all building blocks that are leading us to really creating something special in downtown Dawson Creek. And the strategic plan really is just reinforcing the policy direction from the community, from staff, and from council that's present in your official community plan. I love that this is the limit of my talking for once. I'm going to now kick it over to Justin.
For now. So thanks, Katrina. So I'm just going to briefly walk us through the kind of three distinct but interrelated background pieces of work that have been undertaken and try to show how they all fit together and how this kind of leads us to the next step and what we're looking to get some some feedback and some insight from council today so that we know how we can really drill down on the next steps on what strategic initiatives might be best suited to Dawson to continue to drive forward with this goal of getting more investment in the downtown. So as Katrin mentioned, there were kind of three overarching questions. And one of those questions was, how do people who reside in Dawson Creek and also reside in the broader region, how do people interact with the downtown today? So basically, there are two lines of inquiry. One is, who is coming to downtown Dawson Creek based on their place of residence, and how often are they coming, and what are the patterns of commercial activity that are happening within the downtown? So the first line of inquiry, who is coming to downtown based on place of residence? So in order to do this work, we were able to acquire what's called cell phone mobility data. So this is the type of data that's collected by cell phones, by smartphones in the background, based on the applications that are typically run. It allows us to acquire many millions of data points that over time, and you can acquire these based on certain geographies and over a certain period of time. And we were able to acquire a data set for the year 2019. And which shows us how the residents of Dawson Creek and the residents of the broader region interact with commercial spaces throughout the city and the downtown specifically. We chose 2019, and while we had more recent data available to us, 2020 or 2021, we chose 2019 data and the full calendar year of data because at the time this was the most recent full year of pre-COVID data that we had available, and this was the data set that would provide us with the most insight on how quote-unquote typical movement patterns are playing out across the region. 2020, people's movement patterns very different. 2021 remained different. So 2019 we felt would be the best proxy for how we think things might return to in the future. So the first piece was, how are residents of the city interacting with the downtown? And based on the data point analysis, we were able to see that about 42% of total visitors and 68% of total visits to the downtown in 2019 were made by Dawson Creek residents, while 33% of visitors to any commercial area in the city were residents of the city. So what this generally tells us, and obviously there are other layers of analysis beyond this, but at the higher level, what this tells us is that the downtown, generally speaking, is a larger draw for locals than it is for regional visitors. So we see in the top image there the relative distribution of visits to commercial areas amongst residents. So we see that sort of hot spot in the downtown versus some of the other areas. The corollary image on the bottom is showing the movement patterns within Dawson Creek's commercial areas amongst non-residents, so people who are coming into Dawson from anywhere else in the region. And here we see that, generally speaking, the bigger draw are the shopping centers down along the highway. There is obviously still draw into the downtown, but it's definitely more of a resident-focused experience in the downtown. The second line of inquiry that we used for the mobility data analysis to pursue was where are people spending most of their time within the downtown, and how do those patterns of movement and clustering within the downtown differ depending on whether one is a resident of the city or one is a resident of the broader region. So the top map is showing, or the top image is showing the places where the majority of weekday activity is clustered in 2019 amongst Dawson Creek residents. So we see a lot of that weekday activity clustered in that larger hotspot around 104 and 11th Street. And weekend activity is more varied and clustered more around bars and pubs and other retail venues in the downtown. Non-residents, weekday activity patterns are a little bit more varied, most heavily clustered around the areas west of 8th Street between 104 and 102nd, but we can see a much broader pattern of activity amongst those non-residents, and again, the non-residents being the minority of visits to the downtown. The second piece that we looked to undertake in order to help establish that baseline understanding of what is happening in the city today and how does downtown operate within the broader context of the Dawson Creek economy was employment trends. And here we used, at the time, we were able to access 2016 employment or labor force data for the city of Dawson Creek. Now, at the time, the 2021 census data, when we did this work, was not yet available. However, even had it been, we probably still would have elected to work with the 2016 data set because the 2021 census data, at least from an employment standpoint, is going to be a little bit problematic in terms of what it can tell us about how people will typically be moving around and commuting. As we know, a lot of people who could work at home were working at home still when the 2021 census was taken. So the commuter flows and what it tells us about people working at what the census calls the usual place of work versus working at home, this is going to be much more heavily skewed towards the latter than it might be in a normal census year. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till 2026 for the next census take. So in the meantime, we work with what we have, and that is the 2016 census. So some of the key findings from this. So the labor force in Dawson Creek has notable concentrations relative to the region in healthcare, in retail, in accommodation food services, administrative and support services. We found that for every one outbound commuter out of the city, there were 2.3 inbound commuters. There were 5,660 jobs at a usual place of work, including at home, in 2016. And we found that 80% of Dawson Creek residents with a usual place of work have jobs within the city. We also found, based on a separate data set from a group called Environics Analytics, which tracks daytime place of work, we found that 3.2% of jobs within the city of Dawson Creek are located in the downtown. And just as a comparative factor, we found that using the same data set, we saw 9% of total jobs in the city of Fort St. John are located in the downtown. The third piece of baseline information or baseline research that we undertook was to prepare what we have called the Downtown Retail Opportunity Study. And the purpose of this work was to understand the retail and vacancy mix in the downtown, to understand the challenges and opportunities as gathered through in-person business engagement, which Kelsey will be able to speak to in more detail, and then to use all of the quantitative and qualitative data that we had gathered and analyzed to help us project out future opportunities in the downtown, broken out by retail category. And following on this, we began to look into the question of downtown incentives, which is what we're here to talk about, and thinking about how we best can support existing businesses as well as attract new businesses and create more life and vibrancy in the downtown. So the approach we took as a baseline to understand what is happening in the downtown from a retail standpoint was to undertake a detailed walking inventory of the entire downtown. And in this endeavor, this was all Kelsey. She spent a number of days on the ground, walking every business, talking to business owners, and making sure that we had a very robust data set to work with. And what she found once we gathered all this data, sat down back in the office and crunched through it all, added our retail categories and cross-checked it, we found that the downtown today has about 455,000 square feet of combined retail and service commercial space. Thank you. Across 148 retail units. 70,000 square feet of space was, at the time of the survey, vacant across 26 units. So this is approximately 15% of the total floor area. And then we have retail broken out into a number of very detailed categories, but for the purposes of reporting, we also cluster it up into a number of overarching umbrella categories. In this, we think about things in terms of comparison versus convenience retail. So comparison retail we can think of as things that are bought a little less frequently, where convenience of location is not necessarily the number one factor driving where people shop. So we can think of things like apparel, hardware, optical, shoes, sporting goods, electronics. These are the type of categories that fall under the comparison bucket. Convenience retail, these are things that are bought day to day, week to week, higher frequency, where proximity and convenience is the typical determining factor of where people shop. So think groceries, convenience stores, liquor, cannabis, bath and beauty, pharmacy, florists, etc. So within the comparison category, there's about 89,000 square feet downtown. Convenience retail, not very much at about 20,000 square feet. Service commercial, now this would encompass the broad catch-all for things like personal services, professional services, health services, financial services, so everything from your barber to your financial advisor. Food and beverage, restaurants, bars, pubs, cafes. Here we have about 26,000 square feet in the downtown. And then arts, culture, entertainment, and recreation, downtown Dawson Creek. This is very well represented in downtown at 48,000 square feet. So, some of the key kind of takeaways from the retail inventory. Downtown Dawson Creek today has a relatively strong presence of non-retail anchor, and this is primarily in the form of arts, culture, healthcare, and personal services. The presence of the Center for the Arts is a notable and important downtown anchor, certainly draws activity into the town center. And there's opportunities to leverage and build upon this anchor with complementary uses. There are many notable independent businesses that draw traffic in categories such as sporting goods and home furnishings and others. And there's certainly opportunities going forward to add to this cluster. There's a relatively limited convenience retail and limited food and beverage offerings, so there's a lack of critical mass. But there's certainly some compelling comparison retail, and there's definitely an opportunity to build this out. I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey for a moment to speak to downtown retail challenges and opportunities based on the conversations she had with business owners.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so as Justin mentioned, part 2 of our on-the-ground work consisted of doing some engagement with property owners and business owners. So in June and July of 2022, so last summer, we met with business owners and property owners to really just seek a better understanding of what challenges and opportunities exist when developing or running a business in downtown Dawson Creek. So this consisted of visiting all storefronts, over 100 storefronts in the downtown, to ask business owners, property owners to fill out a survey. So this survey was asked to be filled kind of on the spot as we were meeting with business owners, but we also provided them the opportunity to fill out a survey at a later time. So if nobody was able to speak to us at the time, we did leave a letter to indicate where people could go to fill out any kind of engagement. And so, yeah, we end up hearing from almost 50 business owners and property owners, so 50 storefronts, and we got to collect some really important information to help inform this stage of our work. And so what that looks like is, first, the challenges. We heard that there was an opinion of a lack of investment in downtown amenities in Dawson Creek. We heard that there was a lack of transit. Heard issues with parking was one that came up a few times. Mention of too many vacant buildings and lots within the area. Property tax and high costs of rent. Homelessness and vandalism, competition with Grand Prairie and other chain stores, and finding employees. So keeping in mind this was about, the latter half of the pandemic, the waves of restrictions and all that. So it was quite a challenging time to hear from business owners, but those are some of the challenges that we heard at the time. And then some opportunities for Dawson Creek in the downtown was just having more businesses overall, really investing in that piece. More investment in the downtown. So what people mentioned were food trucks, updating sidewalks, including local art, the mention of social gathering spaces, street trees and benches, so more city beautification. There was mention of improved parking as an opportunity, improving the feeling of safety and security for business owners and for users of the downtown. More mention of beautification on storefronts and EV charging as an opportunity. I'll pass it over to Justin to speak to the downtown retail opportunity demand forecast.
Jeremy? Yeah, I'm looking here. I don't see. Oh, there we go. Gotcha.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Kelsey. So based on all the information we gathered, including the mobility data showing us where people have been coming from around the region into the downtown, what the business patterns are in terms of sales, and some of the sort of more anecdotal feedback that we gathered from local business owners, we used all of this information plus our understanding of the regional competitive landscape from a retail standpoint and typical movement patterns in the region to delineate what we called trade areas for the purposes of retail opportunity forecasting. And when we delineate our trade areas, we think about things in terms of primary and secondary. So where are the majority of customers in different categories of retail likely to originate from? Where are a secondary amount of but still significant number of dollars likely to originate from? And beyond that, where is the inflow of additional spending, the tertiary inflow likely to come from? So on the basis of the data we had available, we were able to delineate the primary, secondary, and tertiary trade areas of the city of Dawson Creek. Once we had those delineated, then we were able to analyze each of those trade areas in turn in terms of what is their population, what is their likely growth of population over the next 20 years, what is the population within each of these trade areas spending, and how does that vary by retail category on a per capita basis, and how is that trending over time. We were then able to layer in from there what is typical retail performance in terms of sales requirements, dollars per square foot sales requirements for businesses to succeed. And these definitely vary quite significantly by retail category. So we have to understand what is the sales requirement of a grocery store versus a restaurant or things of that nature. And then based on the mobility patterns and how we understand people interact with the downtown today, what can that tell us about what a reasonable, what we call capture rate is? So what is the proportion of dollars from any trade area in any given retail category that we could expect to be captured within the city of Dawson Creek overall, and then within the downtown specifically over that period of time? So the first step when we do the forecast is we looked at the city overall, and then from there we started to go through the categories to identify what might the opportunity be within some growth categories for location in the downtown versus elsewhere in the city. So based on what we believe to be reasonable capture rates, and that's based on our understanding of the retail landscape in Dawson Creek and competitive locations, we were able, and the projected growth of population in each of these trade areas, we forecast approximately 66,000 square feet of combined incremental retail space demand over the next 20 years for the city of Dawson Creek overall, and 22,000 square feet of combined demand, excluding service commercial. Within that, we went through category by category, and this is detailed quite substantially in the report itself. And we went through and tried to understand, well, what are the requirements, the locational requirements of different business types, and which ones would be more conducive to success in the downtown versus elsewhere. And obviously, there's always going to be some businesses where there may not be opportunity. Downtown may not be a desirable location for various reasons. So perhaps things like desirability to be close to something that is simply not in the downtown, wanting to be near an anchor that's not currently in the downtown. Perhaps there are some businesses that need highway frontage and visibility. Obviously, that's not going to happen to the same degree in the downtown. Or perhaps there's an unavailability of appropriate land or appropriate built space in the downtown to accommodate those businesses. Amongst the 66,000 square feet that we forecast, it doesn't necessarily mean that every one of these square feet need to be translated into new built space. Some of that additional incremental floor area could materialize, so to speak, in the form of higher dollar capture amongst businesses that already exist. That could come in the form of more dollar per square foot within their existing floor plates, or it could also be the opportunity for those businesses to physically expand. Categories of opportunity of the categories of opportunity that we identified, the ones where we felt that there would be the greatest opportunity for additional activity in the downtown were categories such as clothing, accessories, shoes, general merchandise, grocery and specialty food, and of course, restaurants, pubs, and cafes. Now, I think it's also important to note that when it comes to retail forecasting can go in many different directions, and it's as much an art as a science in many ways, and it's based on how confident are you in your assumptions. And when we forecast 66,000 square feet of incremental demand over 20 years in the city, that's based on no change to the capture rates of dollars that we have assumed in our study. Certainly, if there were additional compelling reasons for people from the region to come into the downtown over time, those capture rates could certainly increase, and that would build on itself and create more opportunity. So this is to say that when we do retail forecasting, we often say that the retail forecast should be frequently revisited and updated to make sure that the assumptions that are built into it are still valid as time goes on. So all of this background baseline research has all led to the initial cut at downtown incentives, which is the main kind of crux of what we were brought in to evaluate. What are the suite of incentives, or what is a possible suite of incentives that could be put forward to start moving things forward for the downtown? Based on the research that our group undertook, and I know Kelsey will have some details to share as well, we found across the case study communities that we looked at, most of the successful downtown incentive programs typically involve one or more of the following components. So tax exemptions, beautification or facade improvement cost sharing, municipal fees and charge waivers or rebates. And these incentives are often packaged up in stackable programs. So not just one or two incentives, but often 5, 6 or more incentives can be accessed simultaneously. So some of the components, of course, of any future program could involve fee waivers, things like temporary uses, which we talked a lot about in our retail report. Here we're talking about things like temporary uses of empty lots, but also temporary uses of empty buildings, vacant storefronts. And that could be, these temporary uses could have the benefit of both activating the street, but also providing opportunities for businesses to get a foothold in the market while paying lower rents, tax exemptions, grants, and of course public realm investments. So we went through a number of case studies, some of the more interesting ones that we came across were right in the immediate neighborhood, down the street in Grand Prairie. We also looked to see what's happening in Fort St. John. We looked up to see what's happening in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. I know Kelsey was the one who had the more detailed conversation with our friends in Grand Prairie, so I don't know if Kelsey, if you would like to take a first cut at walking us through what the city has been doing.
Yes, thank you. Over the last few years, the City of Grand Prairie has implemented a few development incentives programs overall, but specifically have focused in their downtown. So we'll see here on the slide, they have a downtown incentives program, which includes a stackable program such as a demolition grant. So this was a matching grant that provides business owners with 50% of the hard costs of demolition, up to a maximum of $50,000. They've also included a facade improvement grant, which is also a matching grant that provides 50% of project costs, up to an amount less than $750 per front foot, or total $50,000 for the improvement project. It also includes a patio grant, another matching program, up to $5,000 to encourage business owners in the downtown to invest. This patio grant was pretty common through the pandemic to allow for more social distancing. So this is pretty common in most communities, but Grand Prairie also added this with their stackable program. And then lastly, they have an urban residential development grant. So this is to encourage the addition of residential units in the downtown. Eligible projects may receive at the time up to $10,000 per dwelling unit, located within the downtown incentives program boundary. And so another one that they have is the Downtown Incentives and Grants Program. They call it the DIG program. And this was created to provide financial assistance through grants designed to stimulate business development, building activity, and continue local employment in the construction industry by encouraging reinvestment in buildings and properties throughout the city, as well as residential infill development within the city's core. So this included a business retention and expansion grant, 4-year annual rebate equals to 100% of the general municipal tax portion. It included a business revitalization grant. It's also a matching grant of up to 50% of construction costs to a maximum amount of $25,000. Municipal fee rebate. So that is a grant that's equal to 100% of city-imposed portions of different fees such as inspection service permit fees, engineering service fees, planning and development fees such as rezoning or OCP amendment, up to a maximum of $10,000. It also included a new business development grant, which was a 10-year annual rebate that equals 100% of the general municipal tax portion. And then lastly, they also included a residential infill grant, which was a $15,000 grant per infill lot for new construction or reconstruction projects.
Thanks, Kelsey. The only thing I guess I could add to that is from our understanding, based on the research we did here and the conversations we had with staff in the city of Grand Prairie, these programs could kind of be clustered in kind of two general buckets, and one which was the higher value bucket, which was I think maxed out at around $9+ million. This was actually a it has been structured to be what's called a self-funded program, because what it is, rather than being upfront grants, it's funded as paid back or rebated as increments on the tax revenue collected. So there's effectively no front-end risk, as it's a rebate rather than an incentive in advance to attract business. So for example, with the new business development grant, it's structured as a 10-year tax increment rebate for new business development with construction values over $25 million. So every incremental dollar of tax over and above what is taxed in the base year, it is rebated back in the form of a grant at 100% in year one and at 10% decreasing elements over 10 years. Similar story for the business retention and expansion grant, although it was over a shorter period of time. So the idea was this would be structured as tax rebate incentive grants. The other category of grants, which was to a smaller dollar value of just over $1 million, those were more of the traditional upfront grants. So the residential infill grant and the municipal fee rebate, these were structured in a more traditional way. Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo. So Wood Buffalo has had a program in place since 2020. It started in 2020 as a pilot project, and then it was relaunched in April 2021, called Phase 2, and then that was further extended due to popular demand in May 2022, Phase 2 extension. The program expired in April 2023. The program was launched in response to the city's strategic plan in 2018, and then the council's new strategic plan in 2022, which continued to direct staff to incentivize private investment in the downtown. The program had 6 grants to encourage building improvements both in and out throughout the downtown. So this included facade improvement grants, interior improvement grants, patio grants, beautification project grants, murals grants, and premises improvement grants. And the program applied, to eligible commercial, institutional, mixed-use, and apartment buildings. All funding was provided through matching reimbursement grants, matched at either 50 or 75%. And the value of the grants was quite large. The total program funding was fairly significant. Council approved up to $8.7 million to fund phases 1 and 2, and a further $3 million was allocated to fund applications received under the Phase 2 extension. And according to staff, their interest surpassed expectations by a large amount. Between June 2020 and February 2023, the program received more than 265 applications. Of those, 190 have been approved, 75 projects are now complete, and $2.7 million in grants have been dispersed. And the RMWB is now embarking on a process to study the impact and effectiveness of the program on downtown revitalization as they design what the next potential phase of the project could, or of the program could be. City of Fort St. John. City of Fort St. John, so far, with their downtown revitalization initiative, they have taken more of an infrastructure-first approach. So they have, by necessity, have dug up, or did dig up, most of the main drag through the downtown, 100th Street, to replace aging subterranean infrastructure. And this provided the opportunity to reimagine what the above-grade treatment would look like. So new roadway, new sidewalks, new lighting, new benches, basically a beautification-driven program of a fairly sizable extent. There are some incentive packages or bits and pieces of incentives built around this infrastructure-driven program. So there is a business facade program, creative storefront grant, downtown activation grant, some downtown local marketing micro grants, and what's called Light Up Your Business grant. There's also some very early discussions internally at the staff level about exploring possible DCC waivers and or tax increment waivers as part of a future stackable grant program to try to leverage this sizable infrastructure investment that they've recently made. Katrina, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add to the experience so far. No? Okay, great. Wonderful. Kelsey, would you like to speak to Penticton?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so over the last decade, the city of Penticton, their council has been really pro-development. And so in 2010, Penticton implemented an overall development package that really aimed to encourage purpose-built rental housing within Penticton's downtown core. So just to briefly cover that, this package included relaxed zoning to waive parking requirements, DCC reductions, development cost charge reductions, early pay utility discounts, and tax exemptions. So these incentives kind of were the start of Penticton's efforts that were really brought in a time when the community's economy was not doing so well, and there were really few downtown development projects. So building off of that, in 2014, the city implemented something called an Economic Investment Zone program as a part of the overall growth strategy. So they call it the EIZ program, and this is an example of a revitalization tax exemption program, which is permitted under Section 226 of the Community Charter. And so this program was created to stimulate building development, reinvestment, and employment within strategically targeted areas of the downtown. Basically, a portion of municipal taxes were exempt for 5 to 10 years on qualifying projects within the downtown zone. And so in return, the projects resulted in new buildings or upgrades to buildings, which attracted new businesses and employment in the community. So in response, Penticton has seen new industry clusters and community amenities that have sprung up over time, more than 40 projects in the affected zones, which have generated over $70 million in construction activity. And at the end of the program, it will have created over 400 local jobs. So this is kind of an example of a program that is pretty unique to Penticton, and it's definitely caused a lot of traction and awareness in other communities across the province.
Great, thanks. And obviously, those are just 4 case studies of many. There are many other communities across BC and Alberta and beyond that are doing various permutations, iterations, and taking things, slightly differently, or adopting pieces that work for them in their local context. There's great stuff happening in places like Rocky Mountain House and Quesnel, Kelowna, Chilliwack, and many other communities around the province and beyond. So I'll turn it back to Katrin.
Thank you. So I think from that presentation, which is it is really high level because we know only had you for a little bit of time and we could totally dive into the weeds and into the details. It really was intended to provide you with an overview of what we've done to date, the scale and scope and magnitude of incentives that are available. I know Justin and I, even just driving down, we're really talking about there's almost things that need to work in parallel. You've got a capital improvement program or a downtown revite like Fort St. John has done, but then you've got the incentives. And so it's we can make it pretty and hope people will come, or we can, incentivize and hope they'll come if it's not pretty, or we try and marry those up and really create that environment that people want to be at because it's a nice environment to be at. It's got the supports that they need in order to either start a business, grow their business, whatever that looks like for them. So it's a broad range of tools that are really available. And so our next steps really are now to kind of have a bit of a discussion today, which was the other piece of our time with you today, to get a sense of your thoughts on what we've shared with you today, get a sense of your thoughts on some of the incentives that we've talked about today, and sort of just get a feeling for how is this landing and feeling with council. Your input will really help us when we sort of think about the next step in our process, which is to come up with a bit of a strategy for incentivizing and enhancing development in downtown Dawson Creek.
Okay, well, thank you for that. It was a lot of information to digest, even though it was, as you said, high level. Looking forward to getting down to the details, but for the moment, I'll open the floor up to council for any comments, and I see Councillor MacDonald has some thoughts.
Thank you, Worship. In slide 10, the lower photo graphing about non-residents more likely to visit retail along our Highway 2 corridor. Do you think that's reflective of our bypass? And people are hitting the bypass and just completely bypassing the community, hitting Walmart and going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably just a function of, convenience of access for one, but also what is the nature of the retail that they're looking to find, right? And that retail that they're coming into the town to find, it's, as you said, it's easy to hit Walmart, do your groceries and your socks and what have you, and head out of town rather than come downtown and explore, what are the little gems, right? But if there is a bigger cluster of activity, more activity downtown, and it becomes like a known thing, then maybe we can start to redirect some of that traffic.
Possibly more of an opportunity to advertise what our downtown has
perhaps,
to
absolutely.
offer to try and capture.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sorry. On slide 16, we discussed about parking issues. That was one of the challenges that residents were talking about. Can you elaborate on that? Was that property issues just the amount of actual parking spaces downtown available, or was it the 2-hour time max?
Good question. I don't know if Kelsey, did any of the business owners you spoke to have anything specific?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. So it wasn't about the allocated time per spot. It was more so around the configuration of parking and parking availability. From my memory, it sounded that businesses that residents were interested in using, there wasn't direct parking in front of storefronts. They had to park elsewhere and walk towards their preferred business.
Okay. And then in discussions with local residents, did any of them speak of a demand or a desire for residential in our downtown?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was no mention of a desire for residential, no. I feel like what did come out was just having, like I mentioned, more businesses and more around community gathering spaces or utilizing vacant lots for those reasons.
Okay. Right, that was the end of my questions. Thank you so very much for the information, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Anybody else? All right, I've got a few here. So with respect to and seeing the various case studies and knowing, what our own capacity is and what staffing challenges we sometimes deal with, I'm always cognizant of, keep it simple. What kind of, added demand does tracking and administering these programs place on staff? And, for a community the size of Grand Prairie, as opposed to a Penticton or a Dawson Creek, what have you, I just, you don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole and realize you've committed to another 6 staff members that you haven't funded.
Yeah, I'll start. Maybe Kelsey would like to build on this. I think one of the things, rather than I guess before we jump into like what is the actual like FTE equivalent of people needed to administer, I think one of the themes that came out, and Kelsey can confirm this, but that regardless of the size of the program, often the staffing commitment is going to be relatively similar, whether it's a big program or a small program, and the program doesn't necessarily need its own person. It just needs somebody to be able to manage it as part of their broader job. I don't know, Kelsey, I know you spoke to Grand Prairie specifically about staffing requirements and how they've changed as the program expanded. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so for Grand Prairie specifically, there was mention of their economic development department has significantly grown. But it was clarified that it wasn't directly as a result of their new programs. It was just the nature of their organization. But with that being said, they have hired 2 economic development officers and 1 coordinator that is specifically, their role is to administer and communicate with applicants for the programs. So capacity was added, and a coordinator, primary manager was directed to carry out the grants program. So there was a significant amount of work that went into it. But exactly like Justin said, it's important to note that regardless of how large or small the program is, it still requires administrative work with paperwork and following up with applicants. So it's something to think about.
No, thank you. And I've been, I think a proponent of downtown revitalization and economic development zones or something like that since I started on council in 2018. So I'm not, but I am, asking questions as part of due diligence.
Can I just add one more thing to it? I think just building on what both Justin and Kelsey said, you can certainly add capacity, and that certainly helps alleviate the additional potential workload on somebody. But I think what's even more important is that you have a champion within the organization, somebody who is really keen and passionate about building the economic vibrancy and sustainability of the community, somebody who is really excited about how can we bring more things to our downtown. Because when you have somebody like that, a lot of these things, they feel less like work or like another task on somebody. So if you have somebody like that already within the organization, that's a really great starting point before you need to look at external, like adding, as Justin said, additional FTEs or anything like that. So just something else to consider.
Yes, thank you. Another question I have has to do with brownfield remediation. So it's not something that was highlighted in the report. I think I mentioned it, saw it noted once, but it is an ongoing challenge here. Now, I didn't do the math on the back of the napkin with respect to the assumed needed space moving forward, but we do have an abundance of brownfields in the municipality, and it does, I feel, have a dampening effect on people's willingness to invest, on the overall curb appeal of the city and of the downtown core, right? Now, we can paint all the murals you want, but if you've got, 15% of your lots are vacant, dilapidated, you're going to see diminishing returns on that. Are there any municipalities in your review of various cohort cities, communities that had demonstrated that they kind of got a handle on that issue? Or with respect to, I know I had a meeting with a minister last year at UBCM, or a deputy minister, around provincial supports for brownfield remediation. And they gave us some resources, but they're fairly limited, and it's a fairly costly and time-consuming process to begin to get a handle on, but it is chronic throughout, especially rural BC. Any industry town is facing similar issues. So is there any rays of sunshine you guys came across where like, these guys are doing this great, or is it just going to be a slog?
The whole issue with brownfields has been something I've been hearing about since I moved up here. And, we also have all those sites that have not changed in 20 years. Brownfield remediation, the level to what things need to be remediated depends on what goes on the site. So there's different levels of remediation required. So for example, if you have something that's more, say, maybe more industrial in nature and you put an industrial type of development on it, your level of remediation is quite different than if you were going to commercial or parks or things like that. So your remediation levels depend on what's going on there. There are not a huge amount of incentives, and I wish I had this memo at my fingertips. We just wrote this not too long ago for another community, but a lot of the brownfield remediation is driven by a developer, right? And in some cases, they will do it because they're able to. So again, it depends on the kind of developer, right? Somebody that has the resources to do it and is committed to investing in the community will do it. Again, the level will vary based on what they're doing. I know that FCM has quite a few brownfield initiatives and guides and documents, which I'm happy to provide to the city. We just pulled this information for, like I said, another community. I know Northern Rockies, for example, they are redeveloping a brownfield site, which I think the developer is actually doing to build a new restaurant. So it does happen, but you're right, it's challenging at best.
Yeah, the cost associated with doing it versus the value of the land it's not economical in this part of the province, right?
And I mean, I won't speak for Justin, but I don't think we saw a lot of brownfield remediation programs in our case study, and I see Kelsey shaking her head at that too, so.
No, but to your point, yeah, often the dollars out are never going to be the same as the dollars recuperated. So it's about, is the dollar investment in the brownfield site and either acquiring it and remediating it, can that value be recuperated in a different way, right? Through development activity. So, I mean, we've been doing some work in the city of Chilliwack where the city itself went out and assembled a series of sites right in the core of their downtown, which there was no economic way that any private entity was ever going to be able to do anything with them. They invested something in the order of $10 million to acquire these sites, and then they went and turned around, remediated, demolished, basically prepared and put it out to tender to the private sector to see, can somebody come and do something that will help generate economic activity with these sites? And then they were able to find, they had inquiries from developers, they picked a developer, they sold the site at a sum that I'm not exactly sure of, but it was a fraction of what they paid for the site. But then the developer has gone out and created something quite incredible. If you go to downtown Chilliwack today, it's not what you would have seen 5 years ago. So this was a significant risk and a significant dollar investment on the part of the city over time. And this was the culmination of 30 years of conversations. And then eventually it happened. And obviously some stars had to align. There had to be the right economic conditions and the right developer had to come along. But the Chilliwack Economic Partners Corporation, which is their economic development arm, combined with the city, they kind of slowly, incrementally put the pieces in place to allow for the private sector to do something that was economically viable.
Okay. And then with respect to Penticton, because that was, other than, I'd heard more in my conversations with a colleague I have in Prince George who's involved with the chamber down there. And he done kind of a case study of Penticton. And with respect to not I guess the term like spot zoning, but you relax zoning requirements around parking, and you'd mentioned parking earlier. And I know in previous public consultations, the frustration around parking you articulated was mentioned, but the issue we have is there's not a lack of parking. It's just people don't want to walk 2 blocks to get to where they want to go. And that's, you don't want to be dismissive of people's concerns, but by the same token, it's 2 blocks. So that was interesting to see noted. So, I mean, with respect to direction, I know my preference is for something fairly ambitious, whether with respect to what's a good fit for this community. We'll have to get into more detail around that, but I do like the idea of the self-funded program rebate as opposed to, I know we've got an existing facade program that we partner with. We get funded through NDIT and is administered by Community Futures. And it's had limited uptake largely because I think it's a pretty marginal dollar value when you're talking about what it costs to actually redo your facade in any meaningful way. It's, I think, $2,500 or $5,000 if you're a corner lot, which isn't, doesn't get you past the design phase in some instances. So, I'm interested in seeing where there's been some success on that, but I do like the idea of rebates as opposed to straight up out the door subsidies. But I'll open it up to council if you want to provide, if you don't have any questions. I see Greg maybe has some. Or Councillor Apolonio, pardon me. Go ahead.
Yep. Hello, how are you? Thank you for coming, and of course, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. Hearing from you that like the dollar amount, for example, like carrying over for this project, which city or municipalities that is closer to Dawson Creek, at least to pattern to, at least it will be easier to make the downtown revitalization among this presentation or case study that you presented, which is the nearest? Like close to
Nearest in size or nearest in proximity?
Yeah.
I guess Fort St. John would be the closest, but it's also the one, I guess, with the least developed program at this stage.
Okay.
I'd say second closest with a fairly robust developed program is Grand Prairie. Obviously, it's a different scale in terms of size of municipality, but I think there's still some good scalable components there that could be visited or revisited or explored as part of a package for Dawson City or Dawson Creek. Yeah.
Thank you. What else? So one thing I guess I wanted to note, and it's not necessarily detraction, but it is something similar to the administrative overhead piece that I worry about is Grand Prairie and Fort St. John have both implemented programs, and you always worry about getting into some sort of subsidy / rebate arms race with neighboring communities. So when I say, finding something that's a good fit for us and is actually serving the needs, not just, well, Fort St. John's doing it, we have to do it, or Grand Prairie did it, let's, because I think it's easy to go down a rabbit hole and, end up foregoing a lot of opportunities for business that was never going to come here in the first place, and you just kick the barn doors open for anyone. So. But no, that was a really wonderful presentation, and I hope the questions and comments have been useful to you. I'm sure you'll circle back around with Kevin, and he can provide any other insight he might have as we move forward with this. And I don't believe there's any direction required at the moment, Kevin? No.
So through you, Mr. Chair, no, we're in committee of the whole, so there's not really any direction that can be given. It was an opportunity to have a discussion and see the presentation and ask any questions that you might have of Urban. So from here, we'll go back, and we didn't hear any showstoppers or any must-haves. So we'll work with what we got and see what we bring back.
I see we've got the local chamber present, so yeah. I'm sure he's got some thoughts he can share with us.
I was going to mention that we did receive a letter from Duncan earlier in the year about the permissive tax exemption, and that is on our to-do list. And I think it ties in well with this, obviously, as a tool in the toolbox that we can look in conjunction with. So
okay, well, thank you. And I do see we're out of time. Brenda's given me the signal, but thank you again for making the trip out. We appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And is everybody good to keep going? Do we need a break? Are we waiting on the staff sergeant?
He was here.
Okay.
I saw him up there.
Thank you, guys. Drive safe. Are you heading home? Thanks. See ya.
Kevin, is there any chance you guys could send us an actual map of the brownfield sites in Dawson Creek? Just so that we actually have an idea of each one that are out there? Not even just in the downtown, just period throughout the community. Just so we have a good understanding and idea.
Excellent. Staff Sergeant Hughes, I presume. If you could press the green button in front of you. And it goes green. Now we're talking. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I'm not the mayor. He had an opportunity to meet with the Minister of Health. So he wanted to, he had to excuse himself, but he sends his regards. And I think this is our first opportunity to welcome you formally. So welcome to Dawson Creek, and take it away.
Yes, I did get a chance to speak with the mayor outside here for the last kind of 10 or 15 minutes. Rob Hughes, came from Princeton, a little bit of my background. I came out of Depot in 2004. I went to Richmond, worked 4.5 years in frontline policing there, uniform, and then did 6 years in their property crime section, targeting B&Es and auto theft, which is hopefully going to hit the spot for Dawson Creek, yeah. So I moved on from there, moved on to Langley, back to frontline policing to kind of hone that skill before jumping up in rank, and promoted from Langley after 2.5 years to Surrey. So I did work a year on the Wally Strip, some good experience. And then I worked 2 years in Newton in the kind of the heart of the gang warfare. So that good experiences there too. And then promoted from Surrey after 3 years to detachment commander in Princeton, little 10-person detachment. Had some struggles that we made leaps and bounds with in the community. And when I left there, the police community relationship was, I think, as good as it could possibly be. So we're kind of hoping to do that again here. Everything can always be better, so that's my goal coming here, is to kind of draw on past experiences and past roles and address the needs of the community and hopefully make some changes. My ultimate goal, like I spoke to the mayor before I came, was just simply to make Dawson Creek a better place for everybody that is here. This is our home now, so that's the plan. So as far as these presentations, it's been Sergeant Jamie Moffat acting as a detachment commander in my absence. Took a little bit longer to get here than I had hoped. So this is my first presentation to council, so please let me know if there's something that's missing. I made a couple little changes to the structure on how this is reported, and I may make some more changes depending on what the needs of council are. So please ask any questions that you need. If I'm missing something, please just ask. I'm not sure how the process went with Jamie, but I'll kind of go through this. I believe everybody has had this for not quite as long as you wanted it, but mid last week, I think I got this to council. So calls for service over the period from January 2023 to May 2023, up from 3,415 calls. This year's 3,497. So very, very small increase in calls. So albeit about the same, kind of what we would expect. So the balance seems to stay pretty consistent, but about 80-20 between calls for service in the city and 20% rural. Kind of same as last year. So theft of vehicles, 40 calls for service, whereas 46 calls for service from the same period last year, a decrease of 13%. So part of that, this is one of the things that we need to address here as the police. Auto thefts are kind of out of control. So for January, February, March of the year, they were fairly small numbers, I believe. And then May, it looks like somebody was probably released from jail. So while those people are in jail, we watch our numbers crash and go down. And when they get out, the numbers spike, of course, and that's what's happened for May. So while the year-to-date numbers are down, May is unreasonably high, I think. Theft from vehicles is down 32%. Break and enters to residences are up 7%. 28 calls for service was 26 for last year. Break and enter business is up 15%, but it's a difference of 44 to 38 calls, so 6 calls over January, February, March time period, so a couple a month. I don't like to see any red here, but the reality is that these numbers are going to fluctuate, and where there's green, there's going to be the corresponding red. Assault with a weapon, assaults and aggravated assaults are an increase of 5.7% from 88 up to 93. And one of the things I was just talking with the mayor about with our assaults and violent crime, the majority of our violent crime is the parties are known to each other. It's not. We don't have Joe Citizen or Jill Citizen walking down a sidewalk for the most part. I don't want to say never, but for the most part, then they're not being randomly assaulted by people. The vast majority of these are domestic assaults and people in a small vulnerable demographic that know each other. Sexual assault, sexual interference calls, 23 calls for service there was 12. Some of these calls, they just get scored all kind of in one group. And I don't have the exact percentage because I didn't get into each and every one of them, but a bunch of these calls are historical. So they get scored as now. We don't backdate them. Whenever they're reported, that's when they get scored. Drug possession, drug trafficking is a lot lower than I thought that it would be. 8 calls for service. Now these down from 18, shows a reduction of 55.6%. These are calls that are substantiated. Part of the problem with this number is the decriminalization of illicit drugs. That's going to bring that number down year to date for last year because that's a new legislation that's come into play. We can discuss that more with council offline. Impaired driving, drug and alcohol 24-hour suspensions, and immediate roadside prohibitions, which you'll hear referred to as IRPs. Increase of 6.7. Now, while I am impressed with our men and women that are out getting these files, and a lot of these are self-generated, the impaireds, it's disturbing to see any impaired driving charges increasing. So a public awareness piece to that, and perhaps some media awareness down the road, or social media awareness down the road. I'm just establishing a relationship with the local media, and he's away on holidays right now. So we'll continue on that, and the summer months, typically we see those numbers increase, and ideally we'd like to see those at 0. So. Motor vehicle collisions, decrease of 11.5%. Theft and shoplifting is a decrease of 31%, and the mental health calls with an increase of 14.2%. So we have started the monthly meetings again with the mental health team at the hospital, between myself and some of the other partners, just trying to come up with there's a core group of about 20 to 25 people that we share as repeat clients, that they share as repeat clients. So kind of trying to come up with a solution to the police picking these people up, bringing them into the ER, and having them either turned away, or they get to the ER, they get admitted, and due to wait times or whatever, they stand up and walk away. So a very targeted approach is what we're working on for this core group to try and help them through what they're going through. The Citizens on Patrol for 2023, I did have a chance to attend the first AGM of the South Peace Crime Reduction Committee, and then the last meeting for the summer for the Rural Crime Watch, and was introduced to that group. Very positive reports back. They don't have the numbers that they are looking for. They've got some active recruiting initiatives coming up. John Vetter is with the Rural Crime Watch. I did meet with him last week. And they're looking for some ability or time to put into some education, maybe into the malls. And one of the initiatives that I'm hoping to bring back alive is ICBC. A few years ago did a passive immobilizer initiative where they sponsored people with F-350s in a certain year where they're very easy to steal. And that is by far our number one stolen vehicle is F-350s. So having an education piece with that, and trying to liaise with the Special Investigation Unit with ICBC or the local contact at Fort St. John. That's an intended initiative that we're gonna look at jointly, and they have committed to being able to put info booths in the mall or at the fall fair coming up. The volunteer hours and kilometers going to speak for themselves. And then the Peace Region Crime Reduction Unit, working with Alberta District and Property Crime Unit. That's where all their funding comes. That's where they're registered through. So just kind of keeping those relationships up is the intention. We're working on identifying, we have 2 Rural Crime Watch liaison members, but we're finding that the meetings don't always fall on when those 2 members are working an afternoon shift. And so we're looking at identifying 2 more. So we have one member per watch. So the only thing that's missing from here is our resourcing right now. We do have 1 member that's on, we have 2 hard vacancies, which are vacant positions. So we have a corporal position. Sergeant Sean Peddle was just promoted into the Sergeant Operations NCO spot over there. So congratulations to Sean. a fantastic person for the job, excellent fit. But that does bring his corporal watch commander job vacant, and then we have one vacant constable job on the watch, and we are waiting for relocation to fill that job out of Burns Lake, sorry. So he's identified, we're just waiting for the relocation process. And I think that's all I have. Hopefully there's some questions.
Excellent, thank you. I'll open the floor up to council for questions and thoughts, and I've got one or two afterwards. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
The resume gives us all, I hope, great hope for addressing the known situation in Dawson Creek, and truly look forward to seeing you in action in our community. As far as the Citizens on Patrol go, is there an opportunity for RCMP to help recruitment with Citizens on Patrol? Possibly just telling our local citizens who want to help that this would be a great avenue for them to help in the community?
100%. There's always an opportunity for the RCMP to help with recruiting in kind of any endeavor. There is a couple of local groups that myself plan to meet with here in the next couple of weeks. I've met with one of them. There's a couple more. I won't go into details of who those people are right now, but we are actively trying to take those people or a portion of those people from the informal groups to the formal groups.
Beautiful. That's
the plan.
great to hear. And as far as the shoplifting goes, it shows it down, but have you noticed an increase in the shoplifting in the last month or so?
Personally, I have not. I haven't reviewed the stats here for June just yet. I've been in the chair for 3 weeks, so there's been a lot going on. There's a couple of my first day was a fairly serious file that the community is aware of, and then last week there was another very serious investigation underway that takes a lot of precedent and takes a lot of time away from what I'm trying to learn from the community. So,
okay. Well, once again, welcome. Glad to have you here in the community.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? No, okay. I got a couple. So the mayor asked me to ask you something about, I think under, not necessarily Staff Sergeant Moffat, but under your predecessor, Staff Sergeant Worrell, there was some work undertaken around getting a bike patrol for visibility, and some stuff kind of fell off during COVID, right? Everything kind of went sideways during COVID around getting any kind of in-person training or what have you. But the mayor wanted to inquire about whether that's still something that's being considered or where that stands, if at all.
Yes, thank you to the chair. Excellent question. We actually just discussed this morning without any idea that this question was coming. So we are very low. I think we only have 2 members in the detachment that are bike trained at this time. We've had some come and some go.
Sorry to interrupt. To be clear, they know how to ride bikes, but there's special training required.
Yes.
In order, okay, good.
So for clarification to council on the chair, yes, most of our members do know how to ride a bike. Apparently it's something that you never forget. So I've been told. But with anything with the RCMP, whether it be ATVs or snowmobiles, side-by-sides, bicycles, any of our equipment, there is approved training before and protocols before we are allowed to undertake patrols or utilize that equipment. So everything has a training regime set to it. Mountain bikes, bike patrol is one of those things as well. Okay. So getting trainers to come up or send our people away to get trained there's a cost-effective manner to that. So we were just speaking this morning about one of our local members has identified himself as wanting to go and be a bike trainer so he can train our local people here. So we are looking at it. It just came up this morning. So
okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And sorry for the levity. That's the way it was phrased made me chuckle. The bait vehicle. It's something that we had for a time, and it seemed fairly impactful. And then there was some malfunction, and it was sent out of town, and it's taken forever to get repaired or get a different vehicle in. Is that program Can we expect that to be up and running again in the not too distant future?
Again, thank you to the chair and council. There is a bait car in town. The one that was here, I'm not sure what the problem was with it, but that one has since, just as of 2 or 3 days ago, has been taken back to Lower Mainland to be repaired. And right around the first week of June, I believe, another one was brought to town. So we currently have one up and running.
Okay.
So it's in place.
Thank you. And yeah, I just have a couple more, and I don't want to like pepper you, but you're new, and it's nice to get a sense of your feel for things. With respect to the report you're providing us with, I assume the RCMP doesn't have like a standardized committee of the whole report for you to work from, like a template. Are they all fairly similar, or just because I mean, if you think there's a report that would be more beneficial to us as community leaders to get, I'm always happy to see it. And just the continuity of the data is something we always try and be mindful about. So I know about halfway through our last term, how the data was reported was changed. And while it was probably a better way to do it, making year-to-year comparisons became problematic because it wasn't apples to apples anymore. So
Okay.
That's the only note I'd make as far as if there's a way you want to put your stamp on this or something you think would be more beneficial to us, I'd invite you to do so, but just mindful of the continuity of the data or our ability to look at that. And then I guess FERC, and you'd mentioned previously the issue with auto thefts and how one person got out of jail and it completely threw everything into disarray. Are you finding, and I know some of it seems to fall onto your plate, some of it seems to rest with the Crown and the sheriffs. Are you finding the resourcing is sufficient to allow you to keep an eye on those who are out on parole or on conditions? And maybe prone to reoffend, or is that an ongoing challenge?
So thank you to the chair for that. I'll answer the second piece here with the auto theft and the kind of release processes that we have. Everyone's aware of bail reform and our obligations as the police for putting packages forward, who we're allowed to hold in custody for what different types of offenses, violent offenses, etc. We work as a team with the RCMP, with Crown Council, and the judges. We're all kind of working towards, well, not kind of, we are working towards one common goal, and that's for a safer community. That being said, there's legislation and legislative pieces, policies that are put in place that sometimes appear to have different parties' hands tied, we'll say, for lack of a better term. We've got rules to follow. We do our job as best we can to supply the investigative packages to Crown Council, and then Crown Council makes their charge assessment, puts charges forward, and then it's up to the judicial system to impose penalties or release conditions. We always put in our request, and it just goes through up the chain of command through the judicial system and rests in the hands of the judge. So it's not always to public satisfaction.
Yeah, no, and
so I don't know what else I can.
No, and I don't. I'm not
say
asking
there.
you to comment on what. It's one of the things. Is do you feel like you've got the resources you need to monitor chronic offenders, or is there something we can be doing from an advocacy standpoint to get you when we deal with other levels?
Resources is always one of those things with any police detachment. I've worked, a few detachments now. Where I came from was a regionalized detachment, so there's 6 or 7 different detachments all under one umbrella, and resourcing is always going to be an issue. The caseload for Dawson Creek RCMP members is, I think, higher than the provincial average, so we would always like to have more police officers, but that comes at the expense of the community. So we have to try and find that balance. So I haven't had a chance to delve too deep into what that balance is, or how far we're off that balance, or how close we are to it. So I can look at that for the next meeting. But yes, resourcing is always going to be an issue. We would always like to be able to have the resources, time to do more proactive policing. I think that's where we make more of a difference than reactive policing.
And to that end, I'd also highlight that since the pandemic, we've got what was once called our Community Opioid Action Team. It's reestablished as a Community Action Team, and I do believe they're having a meeting coming up. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to introduce yourself to them, but they are working on a mobile outreach unit for people who are struggling with mental health and homelessness and substance abuse. So there may be a valuable resource there that'll help.
Is that the meeting July 6th?
I think it might be this. Yeah, I think it's like Wednesday. Pretty quick. I got an invite, but
Wednesday at 3.
Yeah.
Who is the contact for that?
That is Ali Harold.
Yeah. Okay. So I would encourage you just to, I mean, if someone from the local detachment who's like the person who goes to that, but I just for the sake of getting your face out there and meet with the movers and shakers who are dealing with vulnerable populations, they're a good group of people to get in with. So anyway, thank you for your time. If nobody has any more questions or feedbacks for the staff sergeant, we'll let them go. And
just one, to the chair, one just to address the data and reporting. So I can keep it the way it is for percentages and the crime stat reporting. Things that I would like to amend is, and what I have amended is pulling the mental health files specifically out and having them on their own. So I think before it was mental health and was coupled in with drugs.
I don't know if it was explicitly coupled in with drugs, but there's always been an understanding that oftentimes there's overlap between the mental health and substance abuse pieces, as the acute mental health acute care center for the region. It seems to be a bit more prevalent here.
Correct. So thank you to the chair for that recommendation, and I will take that into account, and I'll put it back to how it was, and I will have a separate reporting structure for extracting out those little things, just so that it's easier for you to continue on with year to year, month to month, quarter to quarter, if that makes it easier for council.
Yeah, I mean, as far I'm kind of relying, just kind of putting it back on you as far as what's your judgment. In your judgment, what would you, if you were me, want to know that would aid you in our role here, but also, keeping in mind we're comparing it to previous years. And
yes.
Yeah. So that was what kind of the feedback was with an eye towards. But otherwise, welcome to your family.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. We're happy to have you here. I know we were very grateful for the work Staff Sergeant Moffat did, but when somebody's there in a temporary capacity, it's hard to have a vision for what the long-term goal is and sit down and have that conversation. So we're very happy to have you here and looking forward to working with you in the coming months and years.
Thank you so much to the chair and council.
You're good. Yeah. See ya. Take care. Okay, and I think we've deferred the downtown hub discussion, and we've all had a chance to review the other COW reports with no comments being submitted for follow-up, Brenda? No. Okay, so I think we are looking to recess to the closed meeting. So could I get a motion to that effect? Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Sudnick, and the vote is open. Oh, Mike killed his thing. Good. Greg, did you vote?
I know.
Good. Okay. Thank you. And we are going to close. So, so the resolution to move the meeting close to public. Do I need to read out the little spiel there, Brenda? Or okay. Okay. Agenda item, we're going to discuss agenda item 3.1, section 90 minutes as previously noted. Agenda item 6.1, section 90, 1E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. And if council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. So there we go. We'll be back in 5-ish.